Hello and welcome to the Easy Allies podcast. I'll be your moderator, Brandon Jones. Joining me this week, panelists Michael Damiani.
Yo.
Ian Hank.
Yo.
Refreshed. And my co-moderator watching one racing game delay in 2021 after another, Daniel Bloodworth.
Hello.
Distinguished guests, we are here to talk about some of the biggest headlines in the world of video games. But before we do that, we must first answer for all of the mistakes that we made last week. Bloodworth, begin corrections music, please. Boop. I feel bad. The protagonist of Sifu practices Pakme Kung Fu, not, quote, a specific type of karate. Which I said in a startling example of racial insensitivity. I apologize for that. The developers of Bridge of Spirits called her Kana in several developer videos, so the State of Play got it wrong. Suck it, Sony. I'm calling it Kana. I don't care how many times you call it Kina. Advent Children will definitely be a part of Final Fantasy VII End Crisis.
Ever Crisis?
Ever Crisis, sorry. Ever Crisis, yeah. I don't recall seeing a correction to a correction. Live correction. Thank you, Damiani. What was that, Bean and Blood? Neither one of you got that. I don't recall seeing...
I was just wondering if this is just an opinion-based correction, because it's like, it's definitely going to be a part of it.
There were a lot
There's
of...
the logo at the end, right?
Yes, I missed that logo at the end. There were also a lot of fun clarifications. Apparently there's going to be a younger Sephiroth in this, and the new episodes are going to come out monthly. Lots of fun details came out pretty much right when we were recording the podcast. Also confirmed, I hinted that a new character was coming to Fortnite. I literally was walking the dog after the podcast, and I'm like, I should have just said it because it was announced right after. But Ripley and the Xenomorph are now added to... it's a good week for Aliens fans. And Diablo 2 had Amazon, Necromancer, Barbarian, Sorceress, and Paladin at launch. Druid and Assassin were added in Lord of Destruction. End corrections music, please.
I knew that one.
Just specifics, yeah. That wasn't haha, you got it wrong. That was let's just make sure we're all on the same page here.
Nice.
Let's start this off on the right note with some good news. Something in video games that we can be proud of, or at least happy about. A silver lining for this last week. From Jeremy C. Hello, fellow allies. We've all been there. Losing 100,000 souls after just missing the run back to our lifeblood, missing the jump with no lives left and having to start all over again, getting beat by Deathstroke in an online match of injustice. Yes, the rage quit. Snoop Dogg knows about the rage quit as well, as this past weekend, Snoop D-O-double-G himself rage quit and left the room while streaming Madden on Twitch. The silver lining? The stream stayed on while over 500,000 viewers were treated to some 70s funk and soul over the course of the unhosted stream for about 8 hours, he does not mention.
What?
Yeah. Unfortunately, all parties must end, and this one did. 7.5 hours later when Snoop Dizzle came back and shut down the stream. I think the stream just stopped, so we presumed that it was Snoop, but it could have been anybody. Maybe it could have been a friend that he called, can you go over to my house, break in, shut off my computer? He played for about 5 minutes and then bailed.
That seems like something he would do.
I know, it's so perfect. So it's I don't know. It's you kind of want that to be the way those streams go.
Also, how many viewers did he have, I wonder, during that 7 hours?
500K, apparently.
Oh, shit.
Wow. I don't know if that was on average.
Maybe
maybe
that's the secret. We've been doing this wrong, man. We just got to stream an empty room. The tension, the building tension will...
I don't know if I'm just begging for it, but I can't believe something like that hasn't happened, that we haven't just gone on vacation or something and just left.
Just left the stream going.
I think we've definitely had some streams that have just kept going after we thought we were done.
But it was like a splash screen or something, It wasn't
Sure.
We should test how long you can leave a stream on with Twitch.
Sure.
We have an office just sitting there.
So
we should
set a world record.
Oh my gosh.
Let's make a second channel that's just called the Stream Room, and it just sits there.
I just want this.
Dude.
It could just be a still image. How would anyone know?
How would anyone know?
Yeah.
No, we put a clock in there so that you can tell it's real.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I like it. Stay tuned, everybody. Stay tuned. I am very much beginning this podcast with the announcement of Aliens Fireteam Coming to Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and PC sometime this summer. Yes, this is a new Aliens game that's just got announced this last week. Ryan McCaffrey from IGN played it for 25 minutes with the CEO and CCO of Cold Iron Studios. And before we get into the game, which again I just think is this looks a fun game. I'll probably play it for a couple hours, with Huber. We're definitely streaming this thing. This will make a good group stream. But I'm just a huge Aliens fan. But Blood, you uncovered an interesting backstory on Cold Iron Studios. They've kind of been through the
I
ringer
was just
these
wondering,
days.
what did they make before? And they were formed in 2015, and then I saw this quote from DualShockers that says, "History of acquisition. Cold Iron's journey to getting their Alien game made and published has been a long one. Since 2018, 3 years after the studio's creation, they have been passed around to a handful of different owners. After Kabam split in 2018, Fox Next Games took the company. Once Fox was purchased by Disney in the following year, Fox Next Games was then under Disney's management. After the Fox-Disney merger, Disney sold Fox Next Games to mobile game publisher Scopely in 2020, and then Scopely shopped Cold Iron and its Aliens game around until August of last year, when Daybreak Games purchased the company."
We should have scooped it up.
I know they've been around
since the opportunity.
Since 2015, but this is the first game that they have ever made. This is, as a big Aliens fan, I think a three-player, third-person co-op shooter that does have a story, but looks pretty straightforward in terms of your objectives and stuff like that. That just makes sense to me for the Aliens franchise. Ian, you're nodding your head. Do you agree? Are you excited for Aliens Fireteam?
Absolutely. I mean, that we haven't gotten a decent, Aliens-style game yet, really. I mean, AVP, I love AVP 1 and 2, but those are kind of a different sort of thing. But Colonial Marines didn't turn out that great, and Isolation is more, an alien kind of vibe. So, this is just perfect. You're going in as, Marines with your team, and it's a stand-up bug hunt. It's gonna be the best.
That's one of the things that's really fascinating about the Alien franchise is that Alien and Aliens are different genres of film, comic books, video games. They really those different branches of the Alien tree went in completely different directions.
Well, James Willems has a theory about Alien that every one is a different. Of the first four, they're good examples of completely different genres. So 1 is suspense horror, 2 is action, 3 is I think a indie thriller, and 4 is a French Nouveau comedy. It's So
4 is truly its own thing. And in the vein of your Alien Isolation, aliens are not the only enemies. They're apparently synthetics, which they did not show, but there will be other robots have been the bad guy in several Aliens properties. But there are 20 different types of enemies. So.
That makes me nervous.
Yeah.
I didn't like the synthetic life forms in Alien Isolation.
I've heard that
because
before.
It's you are right, but they're the bad guys sometimes, but they're the bad guys in a psychological way because you're being attacked physically, and you just have to outlast the alien, right? But then you start getting the mental bombardment from Ash. Or your bad boy synthetics, and it's just that's why they're cool, because it's the other side of the coin, and you have no respite. But if they're just other cannon fodder,
unless they're all Ian Holm, unless they're literally just 40 Ian Holmes just
they
coming
come at you
in
with
the
a rolled
hallway.
up magazine.
Not again. They're busy rolling it up while they're running it.
You've got 3 seconds while he rolls it up.
Well, I only watched the first 10 minutes of the gameplay, but they were talking about spitters and bursters. And
Bursters drop a little bit.
variants
All of these things drop acid when they die. There is a melee attack, not advised with aliens in general, video game or in real life. But bursters specifically are yellowish and they explode in a lot more acid than others. They have a cold, presumably. Spitters are ranged, so they will creep up behind cover and just kind of chuck acid at you. So.
That is the thing with the xenomorphs, is they take after whatever they morph out of. That's the morph part of their name. So I guess theoretically there are infinite varieties of xenomorphs.
And I don't recall seeing any of these, but every single time I think about an alien thing, just had to deal with this with Half-Life Alyx. The facehuggers, man, are just the worst. Like,
Sure.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. If there's spiders in a game jumping at me, I would be like, haha, spiders. But like, there's something about facehuggers that are so messed up. And that would be messed up if they like grappled onto one person and the other person had to come up and like melee, or you had to like spam the button to try to get them off.
I think it's because you're afraid of how sexual you find them.
I am turned on by the Alien franchise in general. Whether it comes to Sigourney Weaver, obviously in all of those films, or I mean, Alien 4 is hot. You know, it's hot.
It's a sexy film.
It's a sexy film, and not just because it's French. There are 5. Speaking of the Marines, there are 5 classes: Gunner, Demolisher, Technician, Doc, and Recon. Technician
That's
might
interesting
not,
since it's a 3-player.
Right. And I don't know if you can like just go all gunner or if you like have to pick different roles. Technician is the one that made my eyes prick up because I was like, oh, I hope you have turrets. And technicians are the ones that can drop little smart turrets that they demoed a little bit in the video. But each class has 2 abilities that are on a cooldown. They also have access to different weapons, multiple difficulty options. You can turn friendly fire on and off, which like, whoa. Blah.
Huber's gonna make us turn that on for the group. I'm gonna murder all of you accidentally.
Acid flying in one direction, grenades flying in the other direction. There's a challenge card mechanic in case that's not difficult enough for you, where you can make like only headshots do damage and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, Damian, are you an Aliens fan, or are you excited for the inevitable group stream where we would be playing Aliens Fireteam?
I mean, a fan of the film, not so much the games. I think the only game I ever liked was the Aliens arcade game, and then AVP, the arcade game. So there hasn't been anything made in probably the last 20 years that has interested me from that franchise. And yeah, I'm with you, Ian, about the variety of enemy types when they go beyond xenomorphs. It's like, stay with the xenomorphs and get creative there, but you know, let's we don't need the synthetic stuff. I saw that enough in Alien Isolation. Was not very, didn't think it worked as well.
And like previous games have had, it hasn't only been the xenomorph. I remember the Predalien was in Alien vs Predator, which was an alien that was made out of a predator, and like there were various other forms. So it's not unprecedented in the games for sure.
And there are like smaller aliens that are more, like they kind of
the dog ones
dodge
from
and jump around.
3
Yeah.
and
So,
or cow ones, depending on which version you're watching.
Yes, the Dark Horse run of Aliens definitely got extreme. I remember buying a lot of those action figures, like Gorilla Alien. I was like, man, if we can only see this.
Goralien. They always like combine the names. I love it.
The Bloodworth, I've been seeing a lot of people online that are like, yeah, but Predator Hunting Ground, man. Like they were excited. That sounded like a cool premise. And where's that game now? Obviously they've had more updates. They got Schwarzenegger in that thing. I think this is much more straightforward in terms of like what I'm expecting, not only this game to be, but an Aliens game to be. But do I need to take a step back and accept that this will probably go the way that Predator Hunting Ground went, or?
Potentially, but I think it's a lot simpler when you have a straight up co-op thing. It's when you have that imbalance that it really it becomes harder to get a community because of the the one side being the predator versus the other side trying to hunt the predator. It's a lot more. Yeah, I think it's just a lot more taxing to get right and to make exciting than just like, hey, the 3 of us are going to get together and we're going to shoot these things and we're going to go through these levels, and it largely becomes down to just like how interesting the levels are and how good like the weapon and upgrade kind of variety is, and whether it's fun to come back to week after week.
And the environments are difficult because you want to make it look like Aliens, so you want to make me go into that environment and be like, yeah, this is where I'm at with all I can see is the flashlight, and there's lots of pipes and stuff. But at the same time, that can be dangerous because it's like, well, I've seen this before. I've seen this aesthetic. How do we, when do we surprise people? When do we, satisfy them with meeting their expectations in terms of like how this should look and sound? Blood, do you know who's doing the music for this?
I don't.
Austin Wintory.
What? That's amazing.
No,
Okay.
known for doing some more kind of laid back, chill, calming. I've definitely meditated to some Austin Wintory music before, but apparently he's a massive Aliens fan. He's very excited. They mentioned that in the IGN video, and he's gonna be putting together the score. So, new story, takes place, apparently 23 years, very specific date after the original Alien trilogy. I love that they say 23 years after the Alien trilogy, and it's like, well, it's 4 movies, but I guess they're like, or considering that's crazy last one. And we don't have a specific date, but I'm very excited to check that out. We had a PlayStation State of Play that if you weren't a Final Fantasy VII fan was like, all right. I definitely saw some people in the comments of the last podcast that were like, boo. I saw a lot of people online that were like frustrated by it. We had a Nintendo Direct that was like, it was okay. I was a big fan of Mario Golf, but I could see some people, being excited, especially a lot of people excited for maybe not predicted games, but games Nintendo themselves announced that they were like, any news could possibly happen. So there were ups and downs. Both of them were a roller coaster ride. So then we roll into this Pokemon Direct, and it's like, well, this time last year they didn't really announce many new exciting things, so are we going to react to it? Well, maybe later in the day we will. And lo and behold, they talk about 3 games that I will be playing, games that I am excited for, and this was a fairly epic Direct. Shout out to Michael Damiani, who produces and hosts Friend Code, who covered this fairly extensively. Just kind of want to do some pickups from what your opinions are, as long as Ian, the newest Pokemon fan of the group, I am right behind him in terms of how long I have been enjoying Pokemon. And just want to say shout out to new Pokemon Snap. Looks great. Not going to be covering that extensively on this podcast, but there's more updates there. Didn't need more footage of that game to sell me on it. You're chucking apples. You're taking photos. Good times.
Dream.
I'll tell you what the dream is. The big news that I feel bad looking back. Do you ever have reactions and you're like, should I have reacted more? Like, should I have been surprised? You
gotta react how you react.
I gotta follow my heart, And I was equally astonished and confused looking at Pokemon Legends Arceus, which is basically Pokemon Breath of the Wild. This is the thing you call the Pokemon of the Wild. I think was the name of the Friend Code episode, Damiani. It's safe to say this is the most anticipated concept for a potential Pokemon video game, and one that wasn't guaranteed, but then bam, here we go.
Yeah, it's something I think people have been asking for a while. Game Freak and their series has been getting kind of consistent criticism despite record sales, despite them generally getting favorable feedback. The criticism they usually get is that we wish you'd do something a little bit more risky with these. But what's the incentive to do it when these games sell so well? So I don't think anyone ever expected them to really do something like this. And they're doing it. And they showed it off, which was even more surprising, that they showed it off in the current state it's in. And, it is one of the biggest surprises thus far of the year. I was shocked.
A current state it's in. What can you elaborate? What do you mean?
It does not look very good on a technical level.
Right.
You see the there's not a lot of detail even up close. A lot of the Pokemon animations are 2 frames in some cases, just hopping back and forth. Everything.
Are you talking about from the distance?
No, there's one shot where things right in front of you, and it's just moving like this. Really
it kind of has that level of detail kind of issue. I've seen games where that kind of thing will happen. When it's you get to some certain imaginary line and the enemies will animate weird. But yeah, I think that's kind of what's going on there. It's just it's happening way closer to the camera than it should.
The game's not running at a very high frame rate at the moment, and even though they show there's not a lot of things in the world yet, in the open environments. Yeah. There's 1 or 2.
Grass.
Yeah, it's grass. It's and then even we run through an empty village. There's nothing in the village. Where are the villagers? These are all points brought up by my guest on Friend Code. I was like, oh yeah, I didn't even notice half this stuff. There's a lot kind of missing from this trailer, but there's also a lot to get excited about because conceptually. They're calling it an action RPG, yet the glimpse we see of one of the battles, the HUD makes it look like it's turn-based, but yet out in the wild, your roll dodge, why do you have a roll dodge? Why would you need that? It's
right.
There's a lot of questions still to be left to be answered about this.
Well, I think one of the other things to me that I just sort of had the impression of in terms of what they did show is it sort of feels like and I could be wrong, but it gave me the impression of everything that's happening, like in this trailer, is happening within 100 yards of town. Like they literally like went right outside the walls and got their footage, and like, okay, there's battles. You got your battle footage.
Bloodworth, Damiani described this as a risk. Now, this is a franchise that seems to make money on just about anything that it does, and is copying a format of one of the most popular Zelda games ever created, the best-selling Zelda games ever created, that Ubisoft then later copied and also made their own successful game. I'm not sure I see the risk here. I think this is like a very smart, straightforward thing for them to do. Do you think this could tank or
if
piss people
like,
off? Or
it's just straight up bad, and it's a little bit more high profile. I mean, but at the same time, like there's plenty of bad Pokemon games that sell fine. So it's
Sword and Shield,
I think
just kidding.
But it's the thing. I think it's just trying to develop a different gameplay structure for what is a very high budget game. I think that's really what it comes down to. Is it's even though right now it's kind of messy looking, it's definitely a higher budget than a typical Pokemon game.
It's also another. That's very true. I mean, I still think the risk thing, I'll stand by that. But they're also kind of breaking some norms with this as well, in terms of being a little bit like risk within their own context of Pokemon. Like, you getting starter Pokemon, the 3 starters are from different generations. It's like, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
The game's set in the past. It's not like a present game. And it's like there won't be any trainers because like Pokeballs and making a Pokedex are a brand new concept in this game. So, and you're exploring if it's the Sinnoh region, and it's like, oh, we've been here, but now it's in the past. So, I think there's going to be some expectations, but also they're showing some of their cards early about this is going to be a little bit different, and it'll be interesting to see how those play out, I think. And I still think this is going to be its own it's obvious it's going to be its own self-contained series, especially if it does well. That'll be another potential complement to the mainline entries, which will always be like the starting point for a new generation of Pokemon. You'll have these, which could go into the past. You have the remakes, which are still in process, with the remakes that we're getting as well, also same region. And you have the Let's Go series, which would be more for like beginners. So they're definitely expanding what they're doing with Pokemon here. This is just I think people want to see how ambitious it's going to be, because you're saying it's so easy, Brandon, that it's going to maybe copy Breath of the Wild. I want to see if it's even going to go that far. Like what how are you going to do? There's no dungeons, or assuming there's no dungeons in this game. Like, what's the incentive to explore in this game? Are they going to do, like, raid battles like they did in Sword and Shield in the open world? Like, there's so many question marks, because it's not one-to-one like Breath of the Wild, other than the environment layout, I guess, is basically
I think one of the number one Breath of the Wild things is there is this shot in the trailer that is literally, like, the behind-the-shoulder link shot, like, frame. People have compared them online, and they are pretty hilariously similar. I think like the climbing is probably one of the dead Breath of the Wild giveaways. Just like the stamina meter, like needing to climb. That was like the number one thing that we saw from Immortals, and it was like, okay, they're not disguising this at all. Ian, speaking of Let's Go, you jumped onto that and very much enjoyed it. You had a great time on our Pokemon Snap stream, and you have slowly warmed up to the Pokemon franchise. Does this interest you, being a Breath of the Wild fan?
It's funny because I've warmed up and then cooled off on Pokemon, because
so has every Pokemon fan.
Well, right, but I had a weird experience where I played a little bit of Go, but whatever, that's a different thing. And then we did our Snap thing, and I loved it. And then I played the hell out of Let's Go Eevee, and I thought it was charming and really cute and fun, but it had the nostalgia element, even though I didn't play it originally. But like, in my mind, I was like, yeah, this is like a cool update of an old thing, and I'm getting to experience this old game, right? And then I was all jazzed about Sword and Shield, and I played it for like, I got to like the 3rd gym, and I was just like, yo, there's like nothing to this. This kind of sucks. And so like, I just kind of stopped. And so my experience was tempered by seeing that the franchise has not really evolved or changed that much since the first game. And I mean, part of that obviously is because I'm playing a modern iteration that was similar to Sword and Shield, in the era that it came out in, but like core gameplay loop wise, they're pretty similar. So yeah, I don't know. I want to be surprised. I love Breath of the Wild. I've watched this trailer and it doesn't scream Breath of the Wild to me. It just screams running around and you actually throw the Pokeball this time. And other than that, I'm just like, okay, but what?
The wooden steam-powered Pokeball, please.
Oh, yes.
Which,
but still,
which,
yeah.
just personally to me is the most interesting thing. Like that's the difference in a Pokemon game that I really want to see is that not, it's like I just imagine like the poor guy in a Pokemon world who's like, I just don't like Pokemon. They're like, look, Derek, get with the program, buddy. Like there are 20 people that live in this village and we all like Pokemon. Like it'd be neat to find people like a tribe somewhere that they're like, what? And we're like those things that are around. You can catch those. Like catch them. Why the hell would you catch them?
Like,
what's the matter with you?
Animals.
Like, yeah. But yeah, and fun that they're kind of bringing, Damiani mentioned that we'll get to Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl in just a second, which also take place in the Sinnoh region, which is where Arceus is from. But Rowlet, who is the starter Leaf Pokemon, is from Sun and Moon. Cyndaquil, the Fire, is from Gold and Silver, which I've just recently played Silver. And Oshawott is from Black and White. So it is kind of fun, this kind of big umbrella. Like they're definitely kind of reached around. It'll be interesting to see what Pokemon are available in the world. That it isn't, hopefully trying to please multiple fans at once. That if you have people that are into just one gen, they're like, oh, you got me, fine.
It's funny because like playing the cynical role as is my want in this business, but like that means they don't have to come up with new Pokemon. Like,
yeah.
Oh sure, yeah, there probably won't be.
I think it's obvious that that's one of the goals of Legends is to capitalize on existing and not have to push. This isn't my own thing, but both I think it was Rogers Base brought it up in Friend Code saying that more recently they've had to churn out multiple generations of Pokemon per platform. And it's kind of overwhelming. So this is a workaround to produce an extra game that still capitalizes on existing generations and older without having to advance another generation within a console or handheld's life cycle, because it is getting harder to make unique new Pokemon.
Well, and like, if you look at everything about the like age that we exist in right now, it's like capitalizing on nostalgia and what people are and the familiar, is a lucrative business kind of across the board.
Yeah.
So there's no reason they shouldn't do that and keep doing remakes and stuff. Like they're gonna sell gangbusters.
Somebody on Twitter reached out to me after when I was excited about Aliens, and they were like, "Man, I can't believe they keep pumping money into these '80s franchises." And it's like, there's a Tom and Jerry movie out right now. Like, there's nothing. There's nothing.
Space Jam 2 is
people will try to make money on.
It's
man.
90s, but
nothing's dead ever. But possibly a challenge to that. I want to move on to Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which are not the next game. The next game that I would play would be the thing that I always forget. It's Ruby or Sapphire is the next one. I've now played Red and Blue, and I played Red specifically, and then Silver. So I should move on to that, but it seems like the time to go to Sinnoh in 2021 because we're also getting remasters of both of these games. These are quotes from their website. The original story has been faithfully reproduced, and the sense of scale to the original's town and roots has been carefully preserved. These remakes include easy-to-understand, player-friendly conveniences of the modern Pokemon series, plus up-close and personal Pokemon battle scenes. It was interesting. We were talking about different franchises, Damiani. You mentioned Let's Go. Like, well, we're still going to get more of those. Why isn't this Let's Go? What's the next Let's Go game we're going to make?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about alluding to the visual style of this game, is why hasn't this followed the pattern of the more recent remakes where they're kind of made in the same engine as like the current gen game? Which you'd ask, why wasn't this made with like maybe Sword and Shield's engine, or at least something more recent? I mean, it does have a new developer, by the way. It's not being developed by Game Freak, probably because Game Freak is tapped out. It's ILCA, I believe, is the developer of it. They have done a lot of support work for a lot of like Japanese games in the past, but this is kind of like their highest profile game. So also it looks like to me, I like the visual style. it makes it look like just an enhanced version of the original game. Kind of like how Ever Crisis of Final Fantasy VII was all I ever wanted Final Fantasy VII to look like in a remake. It's just redraw everything, make it look nicer. It doesn't have to be like full-blown remake. And I like the chibi models. It makes me feel like I'm looking at the same old game, just updated. But I do understand why some people are disappointed. But yeah, I'm not sure how you feel about like the visual style, or if that's what you're getting at.
No, I dig it. I just don't. To me, it looks like Let's Go's done. That was it. They made Let's Go over red and blue, and then they're like.
Well, I mean, the next Let's Go would be gold and silver, though.
Okay.
So if you follow like the order, and
but like the me's of the world don't know that. Like I don't know the order these bastards came out.
Yeah, like they're doing some.
They're just a bunch of colors.
Yeah, I think they have some flexibility. They don't have to be so formulaic. I mean, I'd hope they could break that. But I mean, if you want to go by formulas, yeah, gold silver would be the next. And it would be like what, this third remake after Heart Gold Soul Silver. But this also with Shining Pearl and Brilliant. Is it Shining Pearl, Brilliant Diamond, or Shining Diamond?
Yes,
Shining. Yeah,
Brilliant Diamond.
Yeah, Brilliant
Pearl,
Diamond and Shining
Brilliant
Pearl.
Diamond, Shining Pearl. The other interesting thing is that the trailer clearly shows that there's actually Pokemon Platinum content in this, which is the third one that usually followed every entry. There would always be 2 entries, and then there'd be a third one. And then they're working this in here, which I guess the previous remakes haven't really done something like that. So they are doing something slightly new with this as well.
And this is in line with, from my limited understanding of the series, of remasters they have done in the past of old games. So it's crazy that there's been so many Pokemon games that we've already gone past remasters of older games that we now have to remaster again because they're coming out later. It's Pokemon's fascinating. There's a dichotomy to Pokemon because, yes, this is not a gaming franchise that has evolved very much, but in this Pokemon Direct, they showed all of the crazy gizmos and gimmicks and weird stuff that they've done over the years. And so it's like this franchise that won't evolve and yet does billions of things no franchise does or even bothers to do. There's always some weird little Tamagotchi something like you can track your steps, or some flashlight you put on or something.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like,
Sure.
if you hit as hard as Pokemon hit, pretty much right out the gate, like, don't upset the apple cart, Like, just do your thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny the reactions to the visuals because, like, especially once I saw like a side by side of the original game versus the new game, and like, oh yeah, like I totally get what they're going for with this. This looks great. Like I don't know. I don't have any real arguments.
I think
with
it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. It feels like they're going. They're not reimagining the game. They're just basically rebuilding it in a 3D engine, and it's still going to have the same perspective. You're going to do most of the same things. There'll be some quality of life tweaks, but you're essentially going to be playing the game as it existed.
Because I want to have a little bit of sense of what the old game was like,
Right.
Going in through areas and encounters and like, oh, okay, I can see how this was improved and kind of get a sense of what it was like on the DS, I believe.
Yeah.
Was what this came out of.
I said to Franco, this is where I jumped into the Pokemon series. This is the first Pokemon game I played through, and I played through it for review for game trailers. So I'm like looking forward to just playing this one. To be like my first Pokemon I played when it was relevant, and seeing I get to feel some nostalgia now because I didn't play the gens 1 through 3 till after I played the Diamond and Pearl actually.
Well, and that's what's nice about these remakes as someone who didn't play them at all, because I get to feel as though, like, now I can say, like, oh yeah, I've experienced it in a way that feels like it might have felt at the time. So, like, I feel that way about Link's Awakening, right? Like, I feel like I had a similar enough experience playing the new one as if I played it back in the day.
Yeah.
Because it's modernized, and there's something to that. I like that. I feel like I'm part of the club,
And of course, just like the Sith, there's always 2 Pokemon games. So we're getting the Brilliant to the Diamond and the Shining to the Pearl, but only one Arceus. What's the call there? Do you think, Damiani? They're throwing money away. Why can't they?
Well, because Arceus. So I did brush up my lore on this because I was reminded about it on Friend Code. Arceus is kind of like a god Pokemon. and he created the legendaries who are represented for each game, which are Dialga and Palkia, unless you're thinking of those two, because you'll get, assuming it stays true to the old game, those will each be special to their individual game. It should be Dialga with Diamond and Palkia with Pearl. And then Arceus is just like the head honcho dude.
But even like Let's Go, they still were like, gotta have two. I just thought it was interesting that, and I didn't notice that right away when Legends was announced. I was like, whoa, it's a standalone Pokemon game. That's nuts.
Because they're like, two open world style games might be a little much for people. We gotta draw the line somewhere.
Well, and it seems to me like, just looking at the trailer and the name Legends, like, it's a spin-off, like more. It's like Monster Hunter Stories or something.
Right.
It's more like a. Here we're telling you a story from the past, kind of a thing. Yeah.
I'm just curious how, if any, multiplayer is gonna work in Legends, because that's been like a staple of every single Pokemon game since they've had.
Did they say
Wi-Fi.
there was going to be?
No. They haven't said anything about it.
I assumed there wasn't going to be. I assumed it's just like a narrative open world in the past sort of deal.
I think the logical conclusion, if there's going to be anything, is they'll emulate Sword and Shield's wild environments, the raid battles, like the Dynamax, Gigantamax stuff. So you might just get like an instance.
So there's not trainers, right? So there's probably not PCs.
Yeah, that was the thing. That came up. A friend goes like, "How are they going to handle when you get 6 Pokemon and you catch that 7th one? Is there going to be like a roaming NPC with like a caravan? It's like, just whistle for me and I'll like show up and like
some flying Pokemon that just comes in and grabs it and carries it off.
Or are they going to be like a mail system? Yeah, like how's that?
Yeah, carrier pigeons.
Well, you'll probably be just like carrying them all around, and then at a certain point in the story you'll just be like, man, these things are getting heavy, like I could probably handle like 6 of these.
You could become encumbered.
Yeah, you become encumbered we've got Pokemon encumbrance, and you're like, I could carry like maybe 6 of these things.
But Ian, are you going to be purchasing 3 different Pokemon games in the next 12 months?
I shall be purchasing Pokemon Snap.
Yeah.
And no others.
Okay.
Probably. I mean, unless these come out and are like, people are really, if they're well received, then I'll probably check them out. But like, I'm okay right now, I think, on the mainline Pokemon stuff. I love Snap though, so I'm looking forward to that.
Snap will definitely be its own special thing, and something we haven't really talked about extensively, because man, that game sells itself. If you're not into that concept, don't play it. It's not going to surprise
Pokemon
you.
For 3.5 hours and have a great time doing it.
But I haven't been to Disneyland in like a year almost, and I'm ready for a theme park ride game. Let's do it.
Dude, it is. It's basically a dark ride, yeah.
I'm excited. This is borderline game stuff. You know Microsoft, right? They make games. They also make other stuff. Remember that HoloLens thing that they pitched? Right. That was initially the game. We're supposed to be playing Minecraft in that. I haven't. Have any of you played Minecraft in HoloLens? That was something we were promised.
Is HoloLens a thing that you could buy?
No.
Kinda. It's strange. It's one of those things that people are using. HoloLens is officially upgraded to the HoloLens 2. But it's not like the Quest. You can't just go to Amazon, get a HoloLens. Like, you do have to. I love in one thing that they pitched a game but said not intended for consumer use in their demo video from this last event. It's like, oh, thanks, great. I won't get excited about what I'm looking at then. Yeah. Microsoft just recently had an event called Microsoft Ignite 2021, and they introduced Microsoft Mesh. So Mesh is not specifically a HoloLens thing, but HoloLens was very extensively shown off, and they have a new HoloLens device, the HoloLens 2, that they loved to show off in this. And Mesh is built on Azure, which is Microsoft's cloud computing platform. And the short pitch on this is this will allow people on the HoloLens 2, Oculus, mobile, tablets, and PC to all virtually connect. And so one thing that is happening a lot...
Oh, okay, so the headset is
still the HoloLens.
Right. Yeah. But the technology bringing them together is Mesh.
Yes. And Mesh reportedly put all of this event together. So this is Microsoft Ignite brought to you by Mesh. And what a perfect time to introduce a technology that can bring people together who are not allowed to be together than in 2021, specifically the beginning of 2021, where many of us are still unvaccinated and are still very eagerly looking forward to touching each other again. And it was, I just want to set the scene for you because I was cracking up watching this thing. So this guy starts out, this is Alex Kipman, the Microsoft technical fellow in charge of HoloLens and in charge of Microsoft Mesh, shows up on stage and this just huge aquarium, gets built in around him. And so there's all these digital elements, but he's kind of presented Mortal Kombat style where he's like, the 2D, image of an actual person. And then you have the crowd, which are all avatars. So these are all like me-looking people that have the Rayman hands because you don't want to do arms with elbows in VR because it looks really weird. So you want to have the hands separated. And they're all just kind of like standing there in the crowd. And this is something that is fairly... I'm seeing actually a lot of people in the industry, in entertainment and in business that do VR meetings, that will have VR presentations. So you will be represented in a space. If you are doing a presentation, you will be up on stage. You will see various cartoon faces staring at you, or you will be in the crowd. You'll have to pick. Apparently, you can watch like NBA games now in VR, and you can like hear people in the crowd. So not necessarily something that has crossed over into gaming. Certainly, I have not been to a video game press conference in VR, which I would love to do. But not only do you have these weirdos in the crowd, but they have a kind of Instagram like smiley heart button thing where you can just like spam hearts and then like hearts will come up out of their head while they're watching this thing.
I've seen that
This
in
is
other
like-
video services for sure.
That's like, I think something like that happens in like 15 Million Merits, that like episode 2 of Black Mirror.
Yes. But the best part is it makes a little whenever they do it. And so the guy, it's like, you might want to turn that one off, Microsoft. Because like later on the demo, he's like, please, let's bring out the CEO of Niantic to talk about the stuff that's bringing to Pokemon Go. And he's like, now, at Pokemon Go, and the entire time, it's like, can we please just turn off? Like, I'm sure maybe if I'm there, I would be interested in that, but listening after the fact.
You know what I couldn't stop thinking about it, because the HoloLens 2 or whatever has like a pack at the back of your head, right? So it's like the little visor and then the thing. You know Lobot? I just looked up his name. Lobot from Star Wars. It looks like that, except on the back. But it's like that. He's got those little ear boxes. I was just thinking of that the whole time. Like, we're all going to look like Lobot wearing these damn HoloLenses.
Empire Strikes Back, Cloud City. He works for Lando.
Yep.
He's the guy that when Lando's in trouble, he hits the button and he like is in sleep mode or something. I'm not sure. He's like in this room by himself, like meditating, and it's like, Lando's calling me.
He's like Lando's fixer. I was always like disturbed by the implications of Lobot as a kid. I was like, is that a person that's become a robot? Like, did they robotize him?
And for fans at home, yes, I have unlocked him in Galaxy of Heroes. I haven't leveled him up that much,
Good.
but he's in there. Yeah,
That's
no,
funny.
no Gungans yet, but they got Lobot.
I was gonna say he's in there and Jar
Yep.
Jar's not in
Yep.
there. What the hell?
That is
Yep.
hilarious.
You do not go to the Gungan home world. You do not go to like just retcon. They're out.
Woof.
Woof. Rumors that Jar Jar will potentially be in the Obi-Wan series, but not in one of the most lucrative Star Wars games ever created. So Mesh, I want to talk about because they talked about a lot of things. They didn't talk about like games barely at all. They talked about Pokemon Go. They brought John Hanke, the CEO of Niantic, out to talk about this stuff. He came out just in a little avatar and then was like, hey, I'm here on this nice garden area, and then we're going to play some Pokemon Go, but not really. And this is where it literally said, a proof of concept Pokemon Go demo, not intended for consumer use. It's like, cool. So we were just talking about Pokemon. Damiani, do you want to play a Pokemon battle in AR with the HoloLens? How much would you pay for that?
I mean, I think I haven't tried AR like for HoloLens or something like that. I think I'd be more receptive to that than VR, just because VR is like full immersion in like a false reality where triggers my motion sickness, but also like my brain doesn't like that. Augmented reality, like when we did like the 3DS stuff, I remember like doing the cards and stuff. I mean, that was like simple. That was pretty cool. I like that. It was a gimmick, but I watched the Mesh trailer while you're going over it, and I obviously saw that's like CGBS, but I think something like that might actually be cool if you could just like through your lens you see like a augmented reality, like an AR Charizard just next to you, and it's like, oh, that's pretty cool. Charizard's next to me. Charizard, go, and you watch them fight. It's like that's. I mean, as a kid, that'd be freaking amazing. You'd be like, oh, heck yes. Like, let's go. I'd wear that thing all the time and have, like, Pokemon following me and stuff. It'd be, like, the coolest thing ever.
What's funny about this, Brandon, is I didn't think about it until just this moment when Damiani was mentioning it. I just did a quest in Cyberpunk last night, which is pretty much that. Like, you play this game with these kids, and, like, you all put your headsets on, and you just, like, run around the neighborhood, but these bad guys pop up, and, like, you shoot them with your Nerf gun.
Because that's the big twist, is that we've seen AR, we've used AR, PlayStation 3 had AR, it's like that's not a new thing, to the entertainment industry and certainly to video games. The big thing is you see that too. So it's not only Damiani that you have a giant Charizard, and clearly I would be the one with the giant Charizard. I mean, let's just let's just call a spade a spade. But like that I see that as well, that I see you are also in my living room. And so that is the exciting thing. And also, Ian, you and I have a fair bit of a theater background. Mike, Daniel Bloodworth, you produced several live performances. You are no stranger to lighting grids and large theaters and whatnot. The co-founder of Cirque du Soleil, Guy Laberté, is going to be using HoloLens for a project called Hanai World. And I love when there's this cross between genius and pretentiousness, whenever somebody, a creative person, is like, well, yes, I had this idea 20 years ago. I've just been waiting for technology to catch up.
Right.
You're like, oh, all right, okay, great. You're real smart. You want to do things like...
well, Cirque du Soleil does do VR stuff, too. They have a lot of, like, theater in the round kind of 360 experiences that you can do in VR. I mean, they're videos, but they're 360, like, immersive videos.
And Alex Kipman said, showing off a little bit, that he did have a 200-person HoloLens like presentation. Like they invited 200 people to come in. I'm assuming this was before the pandemic happened, where they were all in a theater and they all saw something happen, simultaneously. I think it was the Baltimore Ravens that had like a giant raven come into a stadium at one point, and like people at home were like, what am I looking at? And it's like, if you're in the theater and and you see the thing, but like most people are like actually at the stadium, just hear like God or like what, so.
Possibilities for this are so cool. So you're talking about convention stuff. I mean, imagine if you just had one at home or in the convention center. It's like, we're unveiling the PlayStation 6, and like they could put in your hand like an augmented reality controller. Like, this is what's gonna look like. Here are the that. Oh man, that would be.
So
it's a banana.
So that's
it's a banana.
that's kind of my main question. Is like, is this cool from a gaming standpoint? Like from a theater standpoint, oh my God, sky's the limit. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
And especially for theater people to be like, oh man, I can finally do. There's this show I've wanted to do in this way, or like we don't have to build sets now. Yes, like there's a lot of fun implications. But specifically from a gaming perspective, is this just like centuries away, or is this something that we?
I mean, we just had the Mario Kart thing
about
last year that Ian played with. It's kind of a similar thing. You don't put it on your head, but it shows how that can work, and that like, okay, you can walk around an area and then the program can figure out like what your quote unquote arena is, if it's your backyard or something, and then put things in it. Yeah.
That's the missing piece that hasn't been ready until now, I think, is that the AR like spatial tracking is actually good enough now for this to work well. It's been around for a few years, but it's always been a little squirrely, and now it's really starting to feel more solid, and apparently it's cheap enough if like the Mario Kart thing is a great example, and phones can do it. I mean, phones are more expensive than that Mario Kart thing, but yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, developers would just need to probably start crafting some games around it, because it just open up probably like new possibilities where only way I could see maybe existing style of games is maybe like a strategy game. Like, everyone could like see like the board, like you could do like a virtual representation, like we all play in a room and it's here's the board game, or here's the map, the terrain, or if you're playing a card game, now you can play, everyone have their virtual cards and everyone can see them together, which would be nice. So
you could have real cards, but the cards do stuff.
So I meant like the special effects.
Eye of Judgment.
Playing Magic the Gathering. Yeah, it's like Eye of Judgment. The problem with this to me is I think like VR has more of an install base now than it ever has, but it's certainly not ubiquitous. And with this tech, I see fewer people wanting to buy in just for gaming, for something that you see through and see your regular room and stuff. Like tabletop gaming is a great example of this, but until we have, like, instead of wearing smartwatches, we're wearing smart glasses like Google tried to do with Google Glass, except they looked stupid. Like, if my glasses could just show me, like, GPS and my calendar and the time and stuff, and linked to my phone or whatever, like, when that can AR, and they're no heavier than this, then it'll be... that's what's going to happen. Like, we're all going to have it eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Practicality of, it feeling natural to use. But, I mean, this, I think, more than VR ever will, has more practical applications, I think.
Yeah.
That are easier to, like, communicate to someone. It's not like, it's not a game or it's not a tour. This can enhance a lot of things. Like, I mean, these might even be allowed to be used while you're driving to, like, you can now see lanes. Or if you don't even, like, not your glasses, but, like, your windshield can start displaying, like, augment AR stuff about things out there. Like, here's a virtual speed limit.
That.
Yeah, well, some cars do, but it's like, it's not for everyone yet. It's still out, like, the price range is still out for that. But that's the thing. It's going to be used in more practical things, so that technology is going to be more widely adopted. So I could see something like this where now, like, let's get a little bit more immersive. Like, if you actually have, like, the glasses version, you can now do, like, something more immersive, like a game, a crafted game experience that requires a little bit more. I think that will be easier to overcome the hurdle of that than, say, VR.
Mm-hmm. Well, and, like, I think another element to it that will be very important, that anyone who has a smart home will already know and feel the irritation of this, is, like, every dang light bulb company has their own little partner app that you have to hook up to your smart device or your hub to get it to work. Like, I've got, like, 4 different ones in my room, and it's like the idea of a mesh kind of a thing where everything kind of talks to each other, regardless of brand and stuff.
Yeah.
Except for PlayStation.
Except for the PlayStation.
Right.
They specifically said Oculus, and they left it at that.
Right. But I mean, like, that kind of stuff is exciting to me too, because obviously I think that'll eventually start to happen, hopefully, where things can kind of just communicate with each other, and, like, everybody is still getting their piece of the pie, whatever, but you don't have to jump through all these hoops. Like, the experience for the end user should be really great. Like, if you do have your smart glasses, they're tethered to your phone. When you get into your car, it puts it on the windshield, but it's the same, like, they're just talking to each other and handshaking, and, your car's a Mercedes, your phone's a Samsung, your glasses are by Google, your watch is by whoever, and it's just, like, everything just talks. That'll be sick. That's the future.
Well, they just announced Alexa support for Xbox this week too.
Oh, cool.
So you can, turn your Xbox on and do all these other functions by talking to your Alexa. Some of it gets, like, really kind of convoluted to where it's like, man, this is more than I need to say. Like, you should just push a button, but it's like, Alexa, tell Xbox to do this.
Whoa,
like, okay.
Careful, Blood. Whoa.
Apologies to users. Blood just did, like, 6 different things.
Biggest
to your smart
podcast
device.
no.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's why I said smart device.
Yeah. Yikes. But I wonder if they brought this up because of the pandemic. I don't know if 2021 was, like, the year that they were like, finally, let's make a big deal about mesh, or if they were like, everyone is starving for connection. Let's play on that, because, again, they didn't even show us what the heck Pokemon could do with the HoloLens. The co-founder of Cirque du Soleil was like, yeah, this will help me with this Henai World thing. We'll see how it goes. This isn't coming out this year or next year. I'm, like, in the very early stages of developing this thing. And this is just crazy. Like, James Cameron's got a HoloLens, but not, it's not really on a on a consumer level for the rest of us. Do you think this is not ready for prime time? But they were like, this is just the year to talk about this, because we're gonna have to get together virtually anyway. So we might as well be like, yeah, but we're doing Zoom differently. It's not Zoom, it's Mesh. We're like, looks like Zoom to me. I don't know.
That's what I was gonna ask you. Is like, because I saw that trailer, but I didn't know if there was a longer presentation that I missed out on. But they didn't say like any tangible
Yeah.
information
And that trailer
about
was
this thing.
faked. I mean, all of that was CG.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Right.
people
And it
like,
was
can,
all, like,
can I
half
move this
VTubers and
house
stuff.
over? Like, yeah, you can touch it. Go for it. And like, cool. I'm gonna move
Right.
this kitchen over here.
Yeah, it's yours. Do it.
Yeah.
But it's like, I saw that and I was like, oh, this looks neat. But can I buy those glasses? Can I give me
Yeah.
what is it? And there isn't any of that, right? We don't have any information.
That's like should be the top of their FAQ. It's like, this looks neat. Can I buy it? No.
no. This is not for you're not cool enough.
We're very thrilled for your interest. We'll be currently reaching out in the
Yeah.
near future with more information.
But I'll tell you
Sign
who
up
can.
below to hear news.
Yeah.
Speaking of
newsletter.
James Cameron and his nautical exploration, the Ocean Explorer, a research vessel of the company Ocean X, is going to start using HoloLens stations on board. So even though us at Easy Allies and most likely you know, in your car or at home listening to this podcast, there will be people out there on a ship exploring the world that will be like, enhance. They'll be like, yes, this whale over here. I want to see that thing zoom in on the whale's genitals.
Jones,
Thank you.
But Jones, do they have a little antenna on the HoloLens so they can pipe in a little music while they're diving?
I don't think so. What is that? Is that a Batman reference? What is that? What is it?
Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
Oh, nice.
And he turns it on and then he starts doing a little dance.
Oh, that's right. Yes, yes.
So you can pipe in a little music.
Also nice, yeah, and Abyss has some good music as well. There's the cowboy gal who likes to listen to her cowboy music. James Cameron. He makes some good movies. When he makes movies.
Yeah.
Also, you know, because I feel like bringing it up, PlayStation is not doing this. This is definitely this is no more. Never has it been more clear that Microsoft is not going to do anything with VR. They are definitely taking the AR route, and it was interesting. Right after this happened, PlayStation was like, "And here's all these games. Doom 3 is coming to VR. Song in the Smoke was announced, which is a survival VR game, which sounds kind of fun.
That one looked
You can
interesting,
actually
yeah.
do the flint in VR.
That one's on Quest and stuff as well, I think.
Fracked, which was described as if Paul Verhoeven made a shooter, which is like, oof, sold. I Expect You to Die 2, The Spy and the Liar, which if you have played I Expect You to Die, then you know what that is.
The
That is
Splyer?
The Splyer. Zenith, an MMO JRPG in VR.
That sounds intense.
Anime in VR. And After the Fall, which we just talked about last week, if not the week before that. Got another trailer. Got some more.
Has society gone too far?
We'll see.
Anime in virtual reality?
So last year we didn't have E3. But
We
did
don't have
a
E3 this
whole-
year. Sorry to break it to you, everybody.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have something probably. It's called E3. But we had a whole bunch of other people trying to fill in the gaps, do their own expos, and one of those was the New Game Plus Expo, and they just had a second one just today as we're recording, a couple of days ago if you're listening to this. But yeah, it's essentially just a bunch of smaller, primarily Japanese companies that have banded together to show off what they're working on, and so you've got NIS in there, and Idea Factory, and Compile Hearts, and Grasshopper, Axis, Arc System Works. So yeah, I watched through that and took some notes today to see what we ended up not reacting to it, but just to see what they announced. And there's some interesting vibes throughout. You know, when you have that many different publishers and developers getting together. Things are more low key, and then after the main expo, they streamed for the rest of the day. They had live streams and stuff. I
Nice.
watched a little bit of that too. There was a voice actor for was it World's End Club? I think it was. Yeah, that's what the game's called. And they had a great interview with her. She was real fun to listen to. She's been in a lot of anime and stuff. But this was her first game, and so they just kind of talked about that experience and compared the differences and all of that kind of thing. But I'll go through some of the highlights. After the opening montage, it started off with Suda, and we're all waiting to hear more about No More Heroes 3, and it's like, nope. It's actually, he was there talking about the Switch version of the Silver Case 2425, which has both of those games being remastered, apparently some new scenarios in there, and he also shared that he beat Super Mario Odyssey, which apparently on the last New Game Plus Expo he said, I'll beat it before the next one.
And he
love Pseudo
held up
Red.
the case just because that proves it. It's like, oh, I
Right,
see. Okay.
right.
Yeah.
You can't have a case unless you've beaten a game.
Yeah.
I know Ben is touted the silver case. He had a
Don't
don't
skip.
skip on it a while back. I don't know if anyone else has gotten a chance to play those. But cool to have them on Switch. Another one that looked interesting to me, they had a game called Exophobia, which is coming out in October. And it looks kind of like if you took Doom and you like put the Game Boy Color palette on it.
Okay.
Okay.
So, yes, I don't know much more about it. It's a first-person shooter. It looks like a Game Boy game in 3D. It's pretty neat.
Ian, I don't know if you're like me. Any game with phobia in the title, I'm like, go on.
I'm afraid of a couple of my exes, sure.
They showed a little bit of Guilty Gear Strive, which had just got pushed back to June 11th.
True.
But Eno is in there bashing people with the guitar. It's pretty sweet looking. I didn't check out the beta, so this is the first time I've really gotten a good look at that game. What I was not expecting, Pocky and Rocky reshrined. So do you remember Pocky and Rocky?
I do.
That sounds familiar, yeah.
Yeah, it's like Super NES kind of. It looks kind of like Commando, in a way. It's like you've got top-down characters, 2-player, but like you're just shooting lots of stuff out and getting power-ups, but you also have like full freedom of movement and kind of exploration. But it's like a girl and then like a Tanuki, so I'm not sure which is which. I'm gonna guess the girl's Pocky and the Tanuki's Rocky. That's coming out in the fall. A Genosha, which came out today, was also in there. That's the one that's like actually, people were saying the last time they saw Genosha that it's actually like really good, and they're glad it was coming to the West. But essentially, it's like Among Us, but with a plot. It's like the visual novel version
I
of
remember
Among
that.
Us.
Yeah.
Like
That's out now?
What's up?
It's out now?
Yeah, it's out now on Switch.
Oh, cool.
And they even say it's like a werewolf game on a spaceship. I'm like, that sounds a lot like Among Us.
Right.
The roles change. They just keep changing. Like, yeah, that sounds like Among Us. But it's not multiplayer. It's more of a narrative focused thing. They show a little bit more of World's End Clubs. What's funny is that like some of the games that I would consider bigger had like less of a presence. Like Samurai Warriors 5 was like in a montage near the end. It's like, it was like 30 seconds to a minute of Samurai Warriors 5. Like, okay, we're going right past that. Okay, cool. Pups and Purrs Animal Hospital.
There we go.
If you want.
That actually sounds pretty sick.
It's just a cutesy veterinarian game. Connect Tank was kind of interesting and complicated looking. There's like a whole lot of different things going on. It's like a futuristic moving company with tanks, but then you're going around like moving conveyor belts, almost like one of those tube puzzles. And you're also collecting ammunition, different ammunition, and putting those into like things for your tank, and there's just like a whole lot happening at the same time.
Boy, the word connect is just spoiled in gaming. Whenever you put that in the title of a video game, I get cautious.
But one of the bigger ones, Disgaea 6, they announced is coming to the West June 29th. The president of the company announced this in a Prinny costume. I want these vibes.
Fits.
Yeah.
I want more of these vibes. I want Jim Ryan to come out in a state of play dressed like Ratchet.
Because they might like wear tattoos or like put a shirt on. It's like, great, you wore a shirt with the thing. Great. What are you gonna put on your head? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Like, are you so in love with your hair that you can't just wear a silly costume? Come on.
Gotta be Yoko Taro.
Yep.
Yeah.
They had a line. He said, strategy RPGs are gonna get a serious punch in the throat.
What?
That sounds like something this guy would say. Yeah.
Whoa.
And they had a character from the game say it, and then like there was like a beat of like maybe 2 seconds, and then they went to like the end card. Like how Nintendo Direct has the announcer that says things in between. The announcer for the New Game Plus Expo then said the exact same line.
Wow. They just keep doubling down on that and like trailers and
good.
press stuff and PR, all the PR emails. We're gonna punch you in the throat. I remember Damiani, one of the Final Fantasy VII ads said people who still make cartridge games should be given a cigarette and a blindfold. It's like,
Jeez.
ouch. Jeez.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Can't say I agree with that.
What's funny about this Expo is there's so many games where like I've heard of this, but I've maybe played it for like 5 minutes and I don't really know a lot about it. But Azure Striker Gunvolt 3. I don't know if you guys have played any of these games. They're like side-scrolling action games, kind of similar to like a Castlevania or Mega Man or something like that.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
KG Unifone is making this with Indie Creates, but he specifically pointed out that they hired an additional action director who is Hiroki Miyazawa, who has worked on the Curse of the Moon games. I'm like, oh, okay, so like bumping up like the way this game's gonna feel. 2022 for that one, but got an early look at that.
I imagine that's somebody I would trust more than Inafune at this point.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We got a few other things in there. They had Prinny Presents NIS Classics Volume 1, so I guess their NIS is going to be producing some like little remasters of different things they've had in their past. This first one's going to have 2 games. It's Phantom Brave and Soul Nomad. And then their one more thing to give you an idea of the scale of this show, the one more thing at the end. Blaster Master 03 closing out the trilogy. July 29th.
How recent are the other 2 games in that trilogy? Is this like
I
a
played-
long time coming, or
No,
These
it's
were-
been a couple of years since
Last
2.
semester 2, yeah. I
I've got it on
remember
Switch. I played it for a while, and then again, like some of these others, it's like I've played a little bit, but I haven't gotten that deep into a lot of these franchises. But yeah,
that's what I love about this segment, Blood, is I know, there might potentially be a lot of people out here. They're like, okay, that's neat. And like some are glued to the speaker. Like we were talking about Microsoft and all this other stuff, aliens, like snooze. I'm just like, wait a minute. Did he say, and be honest, wasn't there one thing you didn't even want to write down? Like you're not even sure how to say that game? It was like plus something, plus dash
there was
plus
a whole
plus.
lot of punctuation in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're supposed to just pronounce it like Void Terrarium, but if I pull up the screenshot here,
Please do.
it is.
Make an effort for this
I think
podcast. Come on,
I
man.
posted. Okay, it is. The word void is normal, and then it's TRRLM, and then like brackets, both like a left and a right bracket, semicolon plus, and then I don't know if this is like just how you pronounce it or if this is also part of the title, but then there's // void terrarium plus.
I love it. Three,
Pretty nuts.
3 pluses? Just 2 pluses. What do you got a control? I'm just thinking, aesthetically, it looks nice with 3 pluses.
It does actually look nice aesthetically.
But it's not even leet speak. Like I thought maybe it's like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe it's just like leet speak, but it doesn't look
You're
like
just
it.
you're just not lead enough to know.
I'm not lead enough. Turlum.
Some bad news coming out of Japan that we touched on last week because there were rumors that it's happening. This still actually hasn't officially happened. There's still just kind of people reporting on it, but Japan Studio has reportedly closed. The vast majority of dev staff has been let go. The Asobi team, the team behind Astrobot, apparently is going to take on some of the developers. And we've talked about a couple of these names, but Masaki Yamagawa, who was one of the producers of Bloodborne, Ryu Sogabi, who is the video manager at Japan Studio, and Masami Yamamoto, the executive producer at Japan Studio, had already departed. So the writing was kind of on the wall. And I have Sony's official statement here, but I just kind of want to get a gut reaction, mostly from the bottom of the screen, mostly from Bloodworth and Damiani, because I don't mean to seem ignorant. This is not a studio. This is Knack, Ape Escape, Patapon, Loco Roco. These were not franchises that I was very much involved in. Just to talk about what specifically we are losing here and what the how tragic this is, because I'm definitely seeing sentiments on social media that are bummed that this is happening.
Yeah, this is also affecting a team that made Gravity Rush, wherever they went on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm glad Asobi is still around. They obviously proven themselves. I don't want to read into any more of this until time has gone by. I've seen the thing is, I guess I'm being colored by a lot of what's being said already, which people are saying, "Oh, is Sony gonna get? Is Sony kind of like making a mistake by forsaking its like Japanese development and like going with a Western centric focus for the future?" And I'm like, is that really what they're doing, or is this like the studio's being closed and maybe they have other plans for, some kind of like Japanese development? I don't know, but. If you're looking for the gut reaction, it's like this for me is terrible because I'm not as interested in a lot of Sony's first party Western stuff. I'm not like as enthusiastic about much of it as I was about their Japanese stuff. And if there's gonna be less of that, it's like, well, cool. Then I guess PlayStation will be the place where I play Square Enix stuff that's exclusive for a year, because like. Sorry, I just play more Japanese Zelda games than Western games, and Sony. It was always Nintendo and Sony, and they're gonna always have the third party. But like Sony first party stuff that was Japanese developed, I always at least tried out most of that stuff and enjoyed it. And there's gonna be less of that. It's a little unfortunate because that weakens their first party profile, which means in the long run, it potentially weakens my reason to have that system if other things happen, such as like everything starts going to PC. Or other systems come to parity, like Nintendo someday decides to play ball and makes a system that's as powerful as the current gen systems. Like, well, let's play it on my Switch or something. So Switch 2, whatever it is. I know there's a lot. The problem is there's a lot of grasping at straws and drawing like conclusions here that shouldn't be done yet because we haven't seen how this played out. But yeah, I'm not too thrilled about this news. I don't like it.
Correction to myself, because I said we're still trying to get more news on this. No, Sony has an official statement. In an effort to further strengthen business operations, SIE can confirm PlayStation Studios' Japan studio will be reorganized into a new organization on April 1st. Japan studio will be recentered to Team Asobi, the creative team behind Astro's Playroom, allowing the team to focus on a single vision and build on the popularity of Astro's Playroom, which is fun. We'll get more of that. Which I think we would have guessed anyway. In addition, the roles of external production, software localization, and IP management of Japan Studio titles will be concentrated within the global functions of PlayStation Studios. So there is some stuff to be excited about here, but yeah, Damiani, it's like, they're buying Insomniac, but then like, reorganizing this. And certainly, they're reporting, after the launch and looking back at 2020, just having absolutely bonkers record years and months, of sales, and so much of that is driven by Last of Us Part 2, Spider-Man Miles Morales. So it's hard not to look at this and see that, guess that trend is happening, more of a Western focus.
It's not complete, and I'm not trying to be completely dismissive either, because like I love Spider-Man and
sure.
Miles Morales, and I want to play whatever comes next from Insomniac's Spider-Man entry. Horizon. I actually have not finished the first one, but I'm pretty excited about the second one. I'm just going to dive right into the second one and try that out. So it's not like they don't have it, but the more they move away from possibilities of having entries in either franchise, I wanted a Gravity Rush 3, and I'm never going to get that. So it's like, that's a bummer. So, and I would just like to see maybe them, they're losing out on some like history there if they like axe all those people. I guess it wasn't like they weren't doing anything with those stuff anyway, so maybe it is for the best. But I just like I just can't. I'm sorry, I don't get excited about Last of Us. I don't get excited about God of War. I like it's some of their main franchises at Sony I just don't get very excited about. And I always like look forward to these other ones. Like I get more excited about Gravity Rush. Gravity Rush 2 is announced. It's like, man, this is the most exciting thing I've seen in a long time from Sony, first party. And now I know every time they do a state of play, when they do whatever their E3 or big event stuff's gonna be, it's like there's no chance of that type of announcement now. So it takes a little bit out the magic out of Sony for me.
Blood, any Sony announcements you're not going to see now? Any sequels you were looking forward to that?
Well, I mean, I've been trying to go over the list, and it's kind of tricky because a lot of the stuff that's in there, Japan Studio was also like very much like, in a way sort of like a publisher and like oversight on a lot of
Right.
other different projects, like bringing up Bloodborne is a perfect example,
Oh,
or
yeah.
like White Knight Chronicles, or those kinds of things. So it's kind of hard to separate, like,
Yeah,
okay, what did they actually like core develop, and what do they work with other people
they
on?
assisted with Last Guardian,
Yeah.
Days Gone, and Demon Souls. I saw
Yeah.
listed. So
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like Japan Studio is right there on like all of the Team Eco stuff, right? Like that's that's a part of it, and stuff like Siren. But I think looking through all of it, like the thing that like kind of bums me out is it seems to be the part of Sony that's a lot more focused on R&D and experimentation, and just like really like messing around with new ideas, and sure, like a lot of those things don't necessarily sell, but they kind of keep the brand fresh. They bring new ideas to people and show different ways of interacting, kind of like whatever team at Nintendo is like doing Labo and greenlighting the Mario Kart thing, and,
Right.
and all of this stuff. It's that level of fun and experimentation and stuff, and it's like if it's all just going to if Sony's just going to be funding sure bets, it makes things less exciting.
I mean, Blood, you basically took the words out of my mouth, because my understanding of this studio was always kind of that they were more like, I don't know if clerical's the right word, but more of the like business side of things, and like acting more like a publisher. So that's why this news was strange, because my first blush reaction was like, okay, is this just like a tax thing? They're just like stopping a thing being called a thing and moving everyone to other,
yeah,
because like half the time that's the kind of stuff like this is just like, we're restructuring so that we don't have to pay taxes in the way we've been paying them, but it's basically the same. You just won't see this logo anymore. Or is it, I mean, it seems like it's a little more than that, since several people like left, but yeah, like Blood was saying, it's unclear to me exactly what they were doing necessarily.
Well, I'm going to change up my expectations. Every time I get a state of play, I'm always hoping for SSX. That's the thing. I make my little SSX shrine. I light the candles and everything. Now, Damiani, I'm going to be hoping that you get surprised, that you will see a little more Japanese developers being honored than Western developers, and that maybe you get some franchises that you're excited about. For what it's worth, maybe we can get Huber on board as well. Also this week, this seems like something that we should talk about for a long time, but man, I'm so exhausted possibly anticipating a new Nintendo Switch coming in 2020-21 or not. Apparently, there is a 7-inch 720p resolution OLED version of the Nintendo Switch with 4K output. That's happening. For reference, the current Switch is 6.2 inches and the Lite is 5.5 inches, and they use a liquid crystal display. An OLED panel will offer higher contrast and possibly faster response time, but rumors, who knows? How many of those are they pumping out? When is
My
that going
TV's
to
an
happen? When
OLED
are they
and
going to announce it?
Looks cool.
Is Pokemon Legends Arceus looking so terrible because it will run on be exclusive to a much faster, better looking Switch? Who knows?
That seems counterintuitive, but
Yeah,
sure.
that's the speculation part's been done to death with what Switch Pro or whatever the heck it's going to be called is going to do. I think
Super Nintendo
the cautionary thing to be careful about is thinking it's going to be this like miracle panacea thing that's like, oh, everything's going to look like 4K 60 blah blah. Like there's absolutely no way that's going to happen, because it's going to lead, if games are optimized for that, they'll no chance they'll run on Switch Lite or OG Switch. They're not going to divide the player base if games are optimized. Now, and even though Pokemon Legends will run on OG Switch, but if it looks terrible and garbage, it's gonna start to like,
Right.
people are gonna start to play it. Breath of the Wild 2, same thing. People are like, oh, Breath of the Wild 2 is gonna take advantage of this. And every time it comes with Huber's like, this has to be on here, right? Taking like 4K, like, well, then how is it gonna look on the OG version with all these games? Nintendo is not about that whatsoever. In fact, Switch is selling so well that I mean,
Right.
the part of the rumor said like they are going into manufacturing with this in June. I just, the question for me is more about what is the bump in fidelity going to be Because I think it's only going to be marginal. These like 4K things, it's like I'll be curious to see how they're doing it, if it's even true. But the screen thing is nice, but like the box, the rumor also says like the docked mode is where you get 4K, and I'm like, what is this docked box gonna have in it then? Well, like what's going on here? That's what's making it run better compared to like the existing dock.
Right.
There's so many weird things, and Switch Pro rumors have come up forever. I mean, just they surfaced around the same time as Switch Lite. Switch Lite happened to be true. Switch Lite makes way more sense right now. I think like if they just need something that makes games run a little bit better, like a slightly faster CPU speed, maybe better storage, the read write speed, so like loading's a little bit faster because we're all spoiled now by next gen or now current gen. I just don't think it's gonna be this large leap like some people are expecting. I think it's gonna be like 3DS to new 3DS leap, something like that.
Well, that's the precedent. I think the question I have is Nintendo is known for is like, how much of a headache is it going to be if it's possible at all to like migrate my stuff from the current Switch to the like? Can I put my damn island on this thing?
Yes.
Like.
Yeah, that should be.
It's already
fine.
That now exists.
But it's a pain. Like, don't you have to like call them up and shit?
No,
like you have to.
Not anymore. Not for
okay.
that. But
I also think that there's a system to just like transfer everything
right.
from
there's
one
a
to
hard
the other.
That's new
system
then,
transfer
that's new, but-
as well.
I remember that a few months ago.
But it's
yeah.
still
But,
largely
like,
hypothetical at this point. And this announcement, if they are starting to make them this summer, like this will happen sometime in the year, and we can have that extensive conversation then. Also waiting to have a long conversation about Elden Ring, which apparently has trailer footage leaked online. If you squint real hard, you can maybe kind of see what it'll look like. It does not look good. I have seen it. We're not going to talk about it because who the hell knows? That's
Well, not that the game doesn't look good. The footage looks like it was captured off a 14-year-old cell phone camera. So
sure, it's hard to tell if the game. Yeah, it was,
So an iPhone.
Who knows? I'm not going to have opinions about something that has not been announced and is very hard to look at. But apparently we're going to get an announcement maybe this month. We'll see. According to LA City documents, E3 2021 is a canceled live event, which basically means they're not doing it in person, but I was not expecting them to do anyway, so we might still have an event digitally or otherwise.
And also, what also means
E3.
they can't use the space. They can't use any of that space to do like presentations or anything like that. So
Yeah,
like,
no, they did say that they might use that space for the.
are you
for
sure? I
that.
thought the article said that like that space is not going to be allowed to be used for that. So it means like they can't do a live component from there. So they'd have to come up with a different plan. Unless the article I read was lying.
I don't know what you read. What I read sounded the exact opposite. So I don't know.
I mean, because I don't think like the news of a live like going in person event, we knew that wasn't happening. They said they were doing a digital event. I think that the news is about that they have more restrictions placed on them now for what they can do.
Well, the news was just they hadn't officially canceled it, right? What was talked about before was a leak, and so the paperwork from the city of LA basically confirmed that like E3 as a live event is totally canceled. But it sounded to me like the option of using LA Live and the convention center for broadcast is on the table.
Okay.
I
And,
wonder what the cancellation fee for that is.
I don't know if you've ever seen the LA Convention Center without anything in it. Or the West Hall or the South Hall. Very impressive. I say they don't build any sets or anything, and you get like the biggest echo you've ever heard in your entire life.
I mean, I still don't understand what they would do from there. Because, like, another thing, like, I think you're going to mention in a second, but, like, one you're not going to mention is also Anime Expo got officially confirmed they're canceled. They're also at LA Convention Center.
Comic-Con was the next
one
one I was
doing
gonna
a
shoot out.
small, and Comic-Con, you said they're doing a smaller thing at a different venue. A lot of these things are doing digital things with a smaller thing later this year because they cannot use these big convention venues because they're being put off limit. So maybe that's what I got confused about, was that Comic-Con and Anime Expo versus E3. But I assumed because like Anime Expo was having limitations put on it with LACC, that meant E3 was as well. I mean, it was the LA Live facilities that were the ones that were saying no to it or something, not the actual convention center.
Sony will allow the PS5 to use expanded SSD storage sometime this summer, which if you could sense the sadness in Bloodworth.
Damiani is leaving.
When Blood was going to be streaming Call of Duty on our last group stream, and then was like, oh, well, fine.
Still waiting. It's right here.
I'll delete 3 games off my PS5 to install Call of Duty.
There wasn't that much sadness. I got rid
good.
of Destruction All Stars. It's fine.
Ooh, you didn't have to, dude. You didn't have to say the game specifically. Yikes. Monster Hunter Rise will be coming to PC, but not until 2022. Ben's not happy about that. Oculus approved Virtual Desktop, which I have to try out to believe what I'm reading, which lets you stream PC VR games to the Quest. It's like, you don't need a cable. Like, really? How the heck did this one? Apparently this one guy solved it and like threw it up in the store, and then Oculus was like, you get that out of here. And he was like, but I made it. It's cool. Got approved.
Facebook was like, you get that out of here.
Yeah. DC Comics announced Batman Fortnite Zero Point, a 6-issue limited series that will apparently have Batman Fortnite lore. Take it or leave it. Terraria is coming to Google Stadia after all. Andrew Spinks was like, all right. It sounds like there's just, he was mad at Google, but I guess there's just a lot of people involved in the project. And he's like, okay, I don't want to. You're all working really hard on this. I don't want to do your work. But I guess Google finally swept in, and we're like, wait, what happened? Sorry. We'll fix it. Epic Games is going to buy Mediatonic. They have not yet, specifically Mediatonic's parent company, and Mediatonic made Fall Guys, so Epic Game. Yoink. Speaking of yoinks, Zynga already bought Torchlight Studio Ectra Games. Curious what they're going to do next. Hidden Path Entertainment is hiring for a third-person open-world game set in the D&D franchise. Yes, please. Don't know if that's an RPG or more of like an action game or what they're going to be doing, but they just tweeted that. They're just like, hey, we're making this. Come on in. So, yeah, go get a job there if you can. EA is delaying the next Need for Speed so Criterion can help with Battlefield.
Which is like leaving 2021 racing games very, very thin. Because Gran Turismo just got delayed. Ain't no way that Forza Motorsport is coming out this year. Playground Games is making Fable, right? So, like...
See ya.
And Codemasters just put out Dirt 5, and they'll probably put out F1 this year, but it doesn't sound like... I think, like, from that statement, EA basically said that Codemasters' next racing game, would be 2022, so, like, okay.
For franchises that focus on speed, these games sure take a long time to develop, Blood. Long time. Nacon is accused Frogwares of, quote, sabotaging our investments in the sinking city. I don't want to get into it this week because it's still a developing story and it's all sorts of legal stuff, which is very confusing, and we tend to report very poorly on the Easy Allies podcast. But damn it, this is fascinating what is going on.
Wild.
And I can't help but like lean a little towards Frogwares because they were the first people that reported it. They were like, Sinking City is something that we very much believe in. We've also worked on other franchises that are, kind of getting the short end of the stick in terms of being available, and we're not getting the money that we should be getting. But their publisher differs. They are both taking definitely different stances on this whole legal battle. And
well, not to mention the weirdly
it was up on Steam, and Frogwares was like, don't buy it.
Changing their name in the middle of all this too. Like, it's like, okay.
Yeah. So I am very curious, much more curious about this legal battle than the Epic Apple legal battle, which I.
That's still going on?
That's kind of.
Oh,
still.
yeah.
I stopped caring about that.
There was something where Epic had to hand out V-Bucks. They were like, it's not often you hear about a court claim ending with a virtual currency being distributed. But that's what's fun about video game news. PlayStation will end movie and TV purchases and rentals on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 as of August 31st. So you still got a while to rent or buy those if that's a thing that you do, and you can still access all of the stuff that you've already purchased, but you will not be able to buy.
I would be glad to not see that stuff on the store.
I'm not really interested in getting them that way. And this burns. EA has reportedly canceled Gaia, which was like the only thing Motive Studios was making. Jade Raymond came on, was like, hey, Motive, let's do it. And then Jade was like, bye. And then Motive hadn't like announced that they were doing anything. Apparently this has been in development for 5-6 years. And they haven't officially said it's been canceled, but they haven't announced it either. And this was a thing in the last EA Play that they were like, next gen's real exciting, y'all. We're look at all the next gen stuff we were doing, and this was just like some guy with a gun doing backflips in like a big empty city. That's not happening apparently. Whatever that was going to be, codenamed Gaia. And as we mentioned previously,
Gaia.
Guilty Gear Strive has been delayed to June 11th, but from April 9th, so that's not too bad of a delay.
Actually, it's really encouraging because
just had a great demo.
It shows that their beta was a real beta. You know, and they got feedback from everybody, and like, okay, we got stuff to work on. It's gonna take a little longer than we thought. We're gonna push the date back. rather
What
than
game was that?
It's real beta. Guilty Gear Strive.
yeah.
Okay. I was thinking about Don's poem, Gaia.
It is now time for Love and Respect.
Love and respect.
From Rahul Misal, hey allies, I recently realized that while I've beaten Breath of the Wild 3 separate times, Breath of the Wild 3 separate times, and I'm currently replaying Control, I've never actually replayed any game with New Game Plus. Something about starting from scratch appeals to me, I guess. That being said, what features would you like to add to those types of modes in the future? I feel like they've all just been starting up with your gear for a while now. Love and respect, Rahul. I love New Game Plus.
I like New Game Plus a lot.
Unless I don't care to play the game. Last of Us Part 2 had it, but when I was done with Last of Us Part 2, I was like, I'm okay. that was emotionally gut-punching every 30 minutes. I don't need to replay that immediately.
I'm sure it's probably not the first game to ever do it, but the first kind of game I'd ever heard of having New Game Plus was Chrono Trigger. And that game is just brilliantly designed around the idea of New Game Plus. Because not only did you carry along your experience and your gear, but through the time portals, you could go and beat the game at any point in the storyline, and so then that's how you have 13 different endings to that game, because it's like, oh, well, this loose end didn't get tied up, so now everybody's going to be reptites. Oh, this thing happened, and so now, this person's going to marry that person because you didn't finish that story arc. So it was a really, really cool way of using New Game Plus that I don't think very many games have done since then.
Well, Nier
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Automata kind of doesn't count.
No,
Kind of doesn't.
But it
kind of does, but it kind of doesn't. Because, the first New Game Plus is, kind of New Game Plus-y, and then, pretty quick you realize, oh, no, I'm just still playing this game. But, the Souls games come to my mind, because when do they not? But, they do a nice thing where, the difficulty ramps up, you have all your stuff, but then, things change sometimes too. There are new enemies and stuff like that.
Yeah, Dark Souls 2 in particular had a lot of new enemies.
Dark Souls 2 kind of really went bonkers with it. I believe there are some enemies that you don't see at all until New Game Plus.
Yeah.
There are certainly lots of items that you don't get until New Game Plus. Dark Souls 2 had an interesting mechanic where you can basically raise an area to New Game Plus at any time. So, you could have your Shrouded Woods or whatever be in New Game Plus Plus if you wanted to in your first playthrough. It just gets harder. I did that to fight a different boss and get a different weapon at the end of or I don't know if it's a different boss, but you get a different weapon if you fight the one of the bosses in a New Game Plus. So I actually raised it up in my first playthrough because I wanted that sword, the Chaos Blade or whatever.
Yeah, those were. He was telling me all about those ones that we didn't try out with Dark Souls 3 specifically. But
Yeah.
a lot of I think, even though it wasn't called New Game Plus, I have to realize how old the concept, the practice actually was. Technically, Super Mario Brothers has it because once you beat the game, Goombas are replaced. They're no longer Goombas. They're the spiny, the beetles.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so the enemies move faster. But you carry over your lives, so there is a hint of that. Zelda 2 had it. Where you carry over some of your stuff from the first game. But I think the best ones is Zelda 1. When you beat the game, they rearrange where the dungeon locations and what are in the dungeons, and it introduces new enemies, new tricks, new items, or not new items, but new tricks, new types of puzzles that were not present in the original game.
Right.
Which is as you're talking about Dark Souls 2, I'm like, that sounds like Zelda when they did Second Quest. I was like, I think the FromSoft's we're pretty big Zelda fans. Old school Zelda fans.
So.
I can tell.
I think so.
Yeah, there were
I love the battle of the fandoms. Ian's like, I'll introduce my fandom and talking about New Game Plus. And Damiani's like, I see your fandom and trumpet with my fandom.
Oh, it's yeah. I know you're joking, but Zelda went in a completely different direction where it no longer embraces that. It kind of shies away from it. Whereas FromSoft picked up the mantle. It's not only it's the spirit, but it's not literally the same thing. And I kind of appreciate that a lot.
especially with the rumors of the open field design concept of Elden Ring, which is basically Zelda 1. Like,
Right.
you can go anywhere in any order, but they're branches off of a field.
What were you saying, Bled? Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying that I don't think that you don't get any dungeons that have like the false walls until the second quest, right? That you can just walk through.
Yeah, walk-through walls are only present. The colored bubble enemies, the ones that take away. So in the first quest, they temporarily disable your sword. But in the second quest, if you hit the red ones, you cannot use your sword again until you hit a blue one, and they're never in the same room, or almost never in the same room. So you gotta find a different room usually. There's Staphos that shoot laser swords at you in that one. There's the glowing snakes, the glowing rope variations of those. So they do add they add a few cool curveballs in that, which is kind of nice.
The twist on New Game Plus that I wish more people did, but not too much because then it wouldn't be special, but the kind of fake second half, or the fake out second half of a game, kind of like Symphony of the Night or Dragon's Dogma kind of stuff. Love that.
I would love it if games had, it's kind of akin to if you're doing a quest and you do it before you meet the quest giver, and the quest giver's like, all right, I need you to go into this thing to get a tablet, and you're like, this tablet? And they're like, oh, thanks, great. It's I love when games account for whatever order you do things. And it'd be fun if New Game Plus accounted for your skill, if you killed a boss super fast, NPCs would be like, whoa, or if there was some point in the game where you were supposed to lose to a boss because of plot, or if you were supposed to run from something. Mm-hmm. And the New Game Plus, you're like, nah, man, I'm all decked out. I can take this guy right now. And you killed them earlier in the game, somehow had to account for that. That would be very fun.
You're describing the FromSoft game. Kind of.
Well, I know Ghost of Tsushima has a New Game Plus, and there's the Khan villain, you fight him, and you're supposed to just get worked. And I'm I wonder if you go back with your armor and stuff, is that fight still possible, or are you just all right, I'm supposed to lose, I should just give up, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Haven't tried it out. From Annie Schreiner, let's play a game. A few weeks ago during Release Me, you mentioned, or Press Release Me, sorry. You put Release Me in quotes, though. You mentioned the Konami store. Something that was funny about this was on the designs for the Dance Dance Revolution merchandise. They got the order of the target arrows incorrect. Sold as up, left, right, down. In the game, it's left, down, up, right. It's since been corrected. Because I'm an avid DDR player and I thought it was hilarious, I came up with the game. I'm going to list 10 songs, and I need you to tell me if it was brought to DDR, sung in one of the 50-plus Kidz Bop's albums, or both. Kidz Bop, sorry, just this one Z, the Kidz Bop. Thanks for all you do, love and respect. I don't expect any of you to get this, but I respect Andy and his DDR knowledge. I wanted to put this in. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. Was this in DDR or Kidz Bop or both? Toxic from Britney Spears.
Jeez.
Both.
Kidz Bop.
Kidz Bop?
Just Kidz Bop? DDR doesn't want Toxic?
Just Kidz Bop.
I guess.
It's a big song. That was in both, baby. That was in Kidz Bop 6 and DDR Supernova Arcade.
Oh.
Wow.
Okay.
Too Close from Alex Clare.
No idea.
DDR.
No idea.
DDR. Kidz Bop 23. Come on, Ian.
Hey, they didn't even guess.
The party rock anthem from LMFAO.
Come on.
Both.
That's Kidz
Please
Bop.
just be Kidz Bop, please.
That was also in DDR 820 Arcade.
No. They're the newer ones. I have no idea about.
But it, of course, was in Kidz Bop 21. How do you do a DDR retro? That was always one retro I wanted to do, especially with Chris Wynn, because he's a big DDR fan back at GT. I would love
we
to
drove to an arcade 3 hours
You need
away.
somebody with a lot of
DDR.
freaking arcade cabinets is what you need, man.
Right, yeah. Livin' La Vida Loca by Ricky Martin, of course.
Kidz
That
Bop.
has to be in both.
It feels like it's probably only in DDR.
Kidz Bop.
I'd say Kidz Bop for sure.
Oh, it is in Kidz Bop. Kidz Bop 1.
Oh.
Alright, yay. Got
That's where I
Fascinating
got
story,
faked
though.
out because I was thinking it was too old.
It does exist, with full charting in the data for DDR 4th Mix Arcade, but is not playable. So it may have been intended for release, but licensing issues may have prevented that from doing so. Andy, doing the homework.
Do we count it as both then?
Technically not. You cannot play it in DDR, so technically it's not in there. But
Dang.
you were correct in thinking that it would be. Kidz Bop 1, though. Phew, memories. I believe in a thing called love from the darkness.
Oh,
No.
Both.
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 But Kidz Bop, I believe in a thing called Love.
or,
Nah, it's
or just DDR.
Just DDR Fusion 2 for PS2, specifically the European release.
Oh my god.
Specifics,
Wow.
man.
Okay.
How are you going to get any of
We're
these?
class here.
The classic Baby from Justin Bieber.
Certainly Kidz Bop.
Kidz
Definitely
Bop.
Kidz Bop. I have my doubts on DDR.
Let's say sure, DDR2, both of them.
Yeah, Bieber's ready for both. That was in Kidz Bop 18 and DDR2, Roman numeral 2 for the Wii.
Whoa.
Wow.
For the Wii.
yeah.
Only for the Wii.
Bad Romance from Lady Gaga.
Oh, please be in both.
Gotta be in both. I'm sure that's in
Just
Kidz
Kidz Bop?
I'm sure I've seen that ad.
Probably too
Just,
expensive.
Wait, just DDR?
Just
expensive.
Gaga's in probably Kidz Bop somewhere, but not Bad Romance. That's just DDR for PS3.
Wow.
Wow.
Watch Me from Silento.
DDR.
That was just in Kidz Bop 30.
Jeez.
Damn.
Dance Dance from Fallout Boy.
Dance, dance. Both. Let's go.
Probably both. Hopefully both.
I'm gonna say Kidz Bop.
Another fascinating story that was in DDR Supernova on PS2. Kidz Bop did try to get it, but Fallout Boy bassist Pete Wentz prevented them from licensing it due to its lyrical content. Pete Wentz
Wow.
stepped in and said, nope, get out of here, kids. And finally, Shut Up and Dance from Walk the Moon.
Both.
Both.
Chris
Kidz
loves that
Bop.
song.
Both. Kidz Bop 29 and DDR-A Arcade. Thank you, Andy. Fascinating.
That was fun.
I will, of course, keeping score, and Ian... No, nobody. I don't know who won that. From Michael Rebelato.
I got at least one right.
You did. From Michael Rebelato. Hey, Ian, I hear you talk about the show called Seedlings or something that you pitched to Viacom. I swear I've heard it brought up many times on various podcasts, but I have no context. Can you explain the story behind this show or any other important info? I think once you mentioned you saw the exact same storyline appear in another TV show later down the road.
Yeah, so we made it Justin and Gelmo, John Finger, and I created this show while we were working at Game Trailers. Well, we thought of it not on the premises, Viacom, but it's a YouTube show. Seasons 1 and 2 are available right now. You can watch them. They're great, in my opinion. I get messages maybe weekly about if it's going to continue because we left it on quite a cliffhanger. The reason it hasn't continued is we pitched it to Netflix, got a development deal from Netflix, and then, very long story short, they passed on it. Like they invested some money and then they passed on it because I guess they wanted something a little more like Minecraft, I guess, and we had made it less like Minecraft because we wanted it to be kind of its own IP. Yeah, I would love to someday do it. Myself and Justin and John are all incredibly busy always, so it's been really hard to figure it out, but we did plan out the story. We know the season 3, it was going to be 3 seasons. We know exactly what is going to happen. I know how it ends. We've known it since before we even started making it. The ending is really good.
Didn't Seedlings
I wanna
have
do it.
hack voice actor AJ Locascio in it?
Yep. Main voice actor is AJ Locascio, whose
career is just tanking, man.
tanking right now. He's doing very well for himself. He's
Some
in a lot of
throwaway Gremlins flick or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the new
He's the
main
voice
guy
of
in
Gizmo.
Gremlins.
Yeah.
Gizmo. He's in Lotor and what you call it. What is
But
that
yeah,
called?
but
Whatever.
the fact is
Voltron.
that Seedlings was
Voltron.
absolutely viral and gigantic while it was on the Game Trailers app of all things.
Oh my
The
goodness.
Game Trailers Xbox app, we had millions of views. It was a big deal.
I mean,
and
not
we like,
Fiasconauts Latvia levels, but still,
right,
a lot of people tuning
right. It was a lot of fun. I love Seedlings, and I want to finish it. What I would love to do is like make a game and then do that, and then have the show out of the game or something. But I mean, I don't know.
in. Seedlings Dungeons. I can see it now. This is a fun one to have with Damiani on the podcast. From Matthew Kaufman, as of December 2020, Nintendo reportedly had $11.2 billion cash on hand, making it the richest company in Japan. Below is a list of publicly traded entertainment companies that Nintendo could theoretically afford, along with their current market capitalization. My question is, should Nintendo buy them? All right, here we go. Sega Sammy Holdings. This encompasses video games, pachinko, and resort hotels at $3.8 billion. Just $3.8 billion.
Less than a Star
Should
Wars.
Nintendo buy Sega?
But that's the thing. When you get into all the other stuff that they have, it's like, there's no appeal of that unless they're going to split the company somehow.
Well, I mean, they did. Sega Sammy did split off the console gaming and PC gaming into its own division now, or its own like separate company. People thought that was in preparation for Microsoft potentially buying them, but I don't think it makes sense for Nintendo to buy Sega Sammy. But if they could buy whatever the heck that new company's called that has the Sega console and PC stuff, then that would make sense.
Save some cash there. Six Flags Entertainment.
Wait.
Oh, wait.
If Nintendo bought it, I want them to at least tweet something snarky about like Nintendo do. Like,
Yeah.
Nintendo did.
Nintendo did. Sega don't what Nintendo did.
Oh no.
Something
That's
like
perfect.
that.
Excellent.
That's perfect.
Excellent. Six Flags, 15 amusement parks, 18 water parks, $4.1 billion. What are they going to do with that?
They are doing amusement parks now. They could make them all Nintendo.
I didn't put it
nice.
also this week, but apparently the Orlando version is
Yeah.
coming out like 2025 or
Got
something. Where it's
delayed.
like, yeah.
Woof.
I don't think Six Flags is even doing that well. So like no, like not
Yeah,
a
it
good
can't
time
be
to
right
get
now.
into- Not a good time to get into theme parks.
They can't be. Capcom, just the video games. It's only $6.6 billion.
Oh yeah.
Here we go.
Oh yeah.
Don't
Oh.
need it. I
They-
don't know. I'm
they
not
don't- they don't
interested in
need
people
Monster
getting bought
Hunter?
out, honestly.
I don't want Nintendo like in their weird control ethos to like mess up Capcom right now. Capcom's doing great right now.
Sure.
Yeah, it disappoint a lot of people. Like, you wouldn't get high-end Resident Evil anymore unless
Right.
that 4K switch is true. But I mean, Monster Hunter alone, they'd want it for that. They could rag
Yeah,
on
that's
it.
true.
World Wrestling Entertainment, television, film, and music production, $4.1 billion.
That would be so funny.
Man, once upon a time, it would have been an absolute yes.
Talk about
It's
costumes,
like,
man.
They leave video games just to do wrestling forever. They announced after the GameCube was the low point for them. They announced we're going into wrestling.
It's like that old Smash Brothers commercial where like there's beating the crap out of each other in the park,
Right.
but like
Yeah.
we get to watch that every month. That would be
Yeah,
so
Nintendo
great.
Wrestling, like the Nintendo cares. Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
I'm just picturing two like muscle-bound dudes dressed as Mario and Luigi, just like wailing on each other.
It's
Yeah.
old. Wrestlers have played Mario before. Konami Holdings, video games, casino gambling, and health clubs, $8.6 billion. A little more
Someone just-
expensive.
Ooh, that's pricey.
8.6.
I was gonna say someone needs to buy.
Sony needs to. or
Yeah.
somebody.
To
I
buy
don't-
out, yeah.
That one doesn't make as much sense. I think.
Right.
I wonder if they could just buy the gaming division.
Right. Because Konami doesn't want it.
Konami seems to not want it.
This is an odd one.
Sony'd be a better fit for that.
Except they did just open that
I mean,
store, I
I know
guess.
Sony has the money, but like it probably.
Yeah, they love
Konami's
merchandising.
IPs would make the most sense with like Capcom.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Lionsgate Entertainment, film and television production, and the Stars Network, 6.5. Time to seeing how much money that Sonic, all those reviews for the Sonic movie,
Hey.
Sonic sequels on the way.
Hey, that Mario movie with Universal,
movies, man.
man.
Give us a
could
Star
be
Fox
big
movie, man.
deal.
F-Zero movie.
The
Star
old Super
Fox
Mario
cross
movie, I
F-Zero
defend.
movie.
Hey, the old Super Mario movie is a great comedy classic.
I defend that movie. Everybody
actually
hates on it.
pretty
I think
good.
it's weird and great.
I'm not being facetious here. I'm being serious. It's like any person I sit down and watch it with, like wow, that was like not what I expected from Mario, but man, I had a good time watching. I'm like, see, it's
See?
a fun movie to watch.
Trust the fungus, Mario.
Just the fungus.
And
I don't know about Lionsgate. Yeah,
Lionsgate's a weird one.
Yeah.
Nintendo's not a good fit for them.
and for only $6.9 billion, you can own Square Enix video games and comics.
Oh man, just for the salt, yes.
That would be pretty weird.
Just love it.
Sony didn't.
Square Enix would not be happy with that though. And, I mean, they would not be happy.
All right. Sounds like Capcom's the win.
Yeah,
Would you
Capcom would
potentially
probably
buy?
be like, the one. They just have to like.
Well, I thought no, Sega was the one.
Sorry, Sega.
Sega.
If they could buy the game stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Or would have
Yeah.
this new division, correct.
But even there's like a franchise or two that I think people would be a little annoyed that it's no longer like available on a higher end gaming platform. Like Total War would not make sense.
Oh
on
yeah, the
Switch.
European Sega
Yeah.
stuff for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And the Atlas stuff.
Oh gosh, yeah. That would make. I mean, Atlas stuff would make perfect sense on Switch, and think people would actually be thrilled about that. But there'd be a few salty fanboys.
Well, yeah, I mean they're having such success on PC right now. Yeah.
Do they own Creative Assembly? Who owns Creative Assembly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
From Cody Spencer, unfortunate news. Brandon Jones has been hired to be the new brand manager of Facebook Gaming. So now it's time to hire a new brand manager. Here are your applicants.
Unfortunate for Facebook?
Unfortunate news. Yeah.
Sorry, Facebook, you're lost.
Here's your list of applicants, and it's time to interview them and see who gets the job. Just a couple of questions each. I will play these applicants, and you will ask me
Okay.
questions. I'm applying for the role of brand manager at Easy Allies. Are you ready? The first applicant, Arthur Morgan.
Wow.
Oh, we're supposed to ask
We
you
have
questions?
to come up with questions. There's
Arthur,
not-
where's your hat?
I got headphones on. Can't wear a hat with headphones. I've tried. Believe me, I've tried. Believe me, I've tried.
Arthur.
Have you gone to the doctor lately?
What do you say? What do you say?
my
What do you say? A little gray around my eyes. What do you say?
I got some questions about your background check.
Right. Kratos.
What would
Wish
you
my voice was this
say?
low.
Brand manager.
What would you say has been a key strength in dealing with anger management situations?
You just have to find the right weapons to help you get those emotions out.
How do you feel about maternal leave? And paternal leave?
I find you can do just about anything with a kid, just as long as you don't worry about them surviving. You know, they tend to just take care of themselves. Put them in a backpack. Once they can walk, you just kind of let them. You give them a weapon. You just let them do what they want to do. Master Chief.
We're going to need to see your ID with your face on it.
My,
Yeah.
To
my
give you a
space ID. I have
job.
it on it's on my armor.
You have
My
valid
space
No,
ID.
no.
ID.
We have to see a photo ID, sir.
It's standard procedure, Spartan procedure. I wear my helmet on my on my license.
You're not a
What are you
Mandalorian.
hinting at? Yeah. How do you eat in that thing?
You seem to have a rocky history with bots.
I don't have an answer for that. It's true. Finally, Phil Spencer.
You're hired.
Uh,
I want to say thank you very much for this opportunity.
Yeah, are you all right? You lonely? You okay.
Would you be opposed to putting some Easy Allies merchandise in the back of your desk?
Yes, I'd like to report right now that I like to hide things in the back of the stream. So, as you will notice, Kermit the Frog has been in the back of the Easy Allies podcast for a while now. Open world Kermit the Frog game coming exclusively Xbox Series X and S. A partnership with Disney. From Peter Mitchell, I cherish the positive energy of Easy Allies in their coverage of games, but does this positivity translate into game review scores? No, it does not. I compiled Easy Allies and Open Critic scores for each game EZA has reviewed. EZA on average scores games 1.6 lower than the corresponding Open Critic score.
We're tough.
If we take Open Critic as the gospel truth, EZA is therefore very fair. Nice job. Breaking down by reviewer, I have assigned each ally a D&D alignment that reflects their scoring habits. Can the panelists guess the ally based on just their assigned alignment? Love and respect, Peter Mitchell, an astrophysicist from the Netherlands.
oh.
Hello.
Yeah, I like people. I like people listing what they do. All right, this ally is Lawful Good. He is the paragon of the EZA review team.
mean,
On average,
Daniel Bloodworth.
he scores games just 0.2% lower than the Open Critic, the highest relative score of any of the allies. He fluctuates around this average difference by about 5.5% from game to game, making him the second most consistent reviewer on the team. And again, consistent related to Open Critic. So this is all silliness.
So are we
This is all
judging
opinions.
just by the score?
It's by score
by
variation.
by
yeah.
their variations to the actual?
Then I'd say you maybe, Jones?
Lawful good. I'm usually
just 'cause I
close
think
to
you
lawful
score
good whenever I
things?
play D&D, but this is
Yeah.
Bradley
I don't follow
Ellis.
people's points
Oh.
score, so I
This
have
is
no idea.
Bradley Ellis.
Ah.
All right.
So he's our highest scorer.
Yes. The
Typically.
paragon of the EZA review team.
Paragon.
This ally is chaotic neutral. He is erratic, but on balance, a reasonably fair reviewer. On average, he scores games 2% lower than OpenCritic. He typically fluctuates around this average difference by 7.3, making him the second most inconsistent ally. Chaotic neutral.
Huber?
So you're saying usually lower, but sometimes a lot higher?
On average, he scores games 2% lower than OpenCritic. He typically fluctuates around this average difference by 7.3. So, yeah, this dude's all over the place. The second most inconsistent, though.
This is so
Blood.
weird. I'll go with Damiani.
Me, baby.
Jones.
Oh, it's Jones.
Chaotic neutral. I will never be chaotic neutral in an RPG. So at least I can be that with these guys.
I'm chaotic neutral.
Yeah, this is like
Yeah,
messy.
but you don't have
Real
any
life.
scores.
Yeah.
I have
You're true neutral.
two.
What is that?
One?
This ally is
Not an
neutral
easy ally.
good. This enigmatic ally is a little unpredictable in his scores, but hides a heart of gold. On average, he scores games only 0.6 lower than OpenCritic, the second closest
There's
of the
so
allies.
much value judgment being added to
I
this.
know.
Of course, no, it's
so
just
weird.
again, there's no value in meeting OpenCritic. There's only value in
Disclaimer, just
How
they're
many
using
views we
fair,
get.
I think,
Yeah.
because that's the language OpenCritic uses. We're
Right.
not using fair in the sense of like.
right.
I think all of our reviews are fair.
Yeah, we're extremely ethical.
Yeah.
The
Is this
second
Huber?
closest.
Yeah, we're
It's
down to
Damiani.
4.
It's you, baby. Neutral good. Lawful evil. I don't necessarily agree with this verbiage, but it's a fun post. This ally clearly does not like video games, and in a consistent manner.
Please be Huber.
On average, he scores games 3% lower than OpenCritic, the lowest of any ally by a good margin. His scores fluctuate the least around his average, however, by only 4.9%, making him the most consistent EZA reviewer, but consistently below OpenCritic. Lawful evil.
It does feel like it could be Huber just because of the Resident Evil 2-star or was it 1 star? Something like that. Yeah.
Would
Oh,
that get
he
an
did.
OpenCritic, though? I wonder.
He gave that one, yeah.
It's Ben Moore.
Ben
Oh.
Moore?
Lawful evil.
We're bad at this
Yeah.
game.
True neutral. This ally is entirely unremarkable. Sorry.
It's me.
That's you.
Oh my god. Oh, come on.
So you just hit the average every time?
Yeah,
basically? Is
basically,
that-
yeah. He's right on the money.
Oh.
And chaotic evil, the one ally we have not mentioned yet. This ally scoring is the most erratic of any ally and the second lowest when compared to OpenCritic. On average, he scored games 2.2% lower and fluctuates by 7.4% from game to game. Almost as
Tom
erratic.
Casanova.
Nah, that's Huber. And some more trivia. Who has? You don't have to answer these. I'll just rattle these off. Who is given the worst games to review? Daniel Bloodworth. His OpenCritic on average scores his games at 7.4. Still not bad. So not based on his scores, just based on the games he has done and the scores they've gotten on OpenCritic. Who's hogging all the best games for review? Well, that's a tie between Michael Damiani and Ben Moore. They review games scoring on average 8.1 on OpenCritic. Which game was EZA most generous with compared to OpenCritic? Last Guardian. Which game was
I was
EZA
gonna say
most harsh?
I was gonna say
Oh,
Last
here
Guardian.
we go.
You freaks.
They got 8.1 on OpenCritic. Which game was EZA most harsh towards compared to OpenCritic? Fallout 76, 2.0 versus OpenCritic's 5.3.
Really?
I'm sure I imagine those reviews were all over the place. From 2016 to 2020, which year was the best for video games? Following EZA scores.
18.
2017 with an average score of 7.82. 2020 only just behind it at 7.81.
I mean, we had Zelda and Mario that year,
Yeah.
along with so much else.
Which year was the worst for video games from an EZA perspective? That's 2016. The average score was 7.54 and by a good margin. Which year was the EZA the most positive when compared to OpenCritic? That was last year, 2020. EZA was only on average 0.2% down. And the year the EZA was the most harsh was 2017. We were down 3% compared to OpenCritic. Fascinating information that also means absolutely nothing. It is time for bets. Next week's bet, Watch Dogs Legion Online launches on March 9th, which I have played but will not be on that group stream because I will be talking about Batman Arkham Asylum, which is my little pitch because I don't get to make one in this episode.
With Min-Max.
The video you can watch with Min-Max. Right before we record this podcast, not during, right before, because I don't want to take up a lot of time searching for this information, I will look and am curious what will be the gap on March 11th, before we record the podcast, on twitch.tv, between the viewer gap between Watch Dogs Legions Online and Grand Theft Auto Online. What's that gap going to be, Ian Hank?
315,000.
Okay. Michael Damiani.
I said, sorry, close for a second. 400,000.
Okay. Daniel Bloodworth.
Dang it. I also said 400,000. Should have put some extra weird number in there.
Well, I don't know. That could work out well for us. I went kind of low. 220K.
Ooh, we got the low.
I got the low. Last week's bet, Maquette launched a couple days ago. PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. Check out the review from Daniel Bloodworth.
Yeah, I got to play that.
I wanted to know how long that launch trailer would be. Ben Moore bet 1 minute 20 seconds. Ian Hink bet 1 minute 12 seconds. Daniel Bloodworth bet 1 minute 6 seconds. And I went high with 1 minute 21 seconds. There wasn't a launch trailer.
Wait, really?
Yeah, lowest score wins. 1 minute and 6 seconds. Now, I want to back this bet up because this is rare. And I wonder if it's because we had the state of play and we had all these PlayStation VR announcements. I wonder if they just kind of weren't, that was not necessarily the focus. This is odd. Every time that we've done the launch trailer bet so far in the EZA podcast, at least in my tenure, there has been one. Recent games that got launch trailers, We Were Here Together, After Party, No Straight Roads, Astroneer, Pacer, Worms Rumble. Obviously, Yakuza Like a Dragon just got one because it's now on PlayStation 5. And plus I bet high, so clearly I thought it was going to happen. But Maquette did not get one, so low score wins. Daniel Bloodworth.
Yeah, the cast announced trailer is the last one they had.
I know.
Ooh.
Maybe that was
Weird.
enough. Once he put Bryce Dallas Howard on the board, what else? What else needs to be said? That brings our scores to Jovial Penguin 7.
We're gonna dismantle his Batmobile and turn it into an H-bomb on wheels.
That's a better one.
Damian
What
doesn't
were
even
you
make
gonna
sounds
say?
now. Damian doesn't even make
Greetings,
sounds now.
Batman.
Oh, jeez.
You have taken the bait as I knew you would. Now prepare to meet your end within my Avery of Doom.
Avery.
I'd just like to point out that there also is an animated series that the Penguin was on, and he was in several comic books, if you want to, I don't know, it's broad.
Hey, when we run out, he's got so
what I
many good
quoted.
lines
That's
in
what
return.
I just quoted from Batman. Almost got him.
Ah.
Yeah.
Vociferous Beavers 3.
Nom 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 nom.
I'm not even on this Team Blood. I'm sorry. I'm not even. It's March already, and I haven't it's zero contributions towards the board here. Shout out to Blood for getting all them wins. Also, shout out to everybody currently supporting Easy Allies on Patreon. Patreon.com/Easy Allies. Hey, fun Patreon pitch. Last week I talked about the Cup of Jones that I do every Monday, and this we had a little Love and Respect Cup of Jones crossover. Mr. Brandon K. Gand, who is very active in all of our shows, specifically the Q&A components of submitting stuff, fun games, and questions for us to answer, is a regular on Cup of Jones. He is Alexander Zarianov is to the Q&A what Brandon K. Gann is to Cup of Jones. He is number one on that list every single time. He did a humongous, crazy breakdown of our reviews over the last 5 years. Easy Allies is almost 5 years old. We just passed our 300th review mark, and he gave us a lot of fun information. Way too much information to go through on the podcast, but I thought it would be good to talk about, to celebrate that 300th review that went up, Persona 5 Strikers, by the way, and to talk about a lot of those fun stats. So all of that stuff is exclusive to Patreon. In that episode is my editorial for that episode. It's about 40 minutes in. So if you want to listen to that stuff and other like-minded editorials, every now and then I do a fun personal one, but a lot of times I talk about specific business stuff, expound more on stuff that we are doing. And March is going to be a fun month because we got our anniversary coming up at the end of the month. We have some fun events and some fun announcements to make. Check out patreon.com/easyallies and get that exclusive stuff. WandaVision spoiler mode this weekend. So fun exclusives coming up. Specifically, oh my goodness, I didn't even go get it. I can go into Slack and get them. We have our shout out tier. And of course, Slack
It's
just
also at the
gave me.
bottom of easyallies.com. That's how I get it.
Oh, there we go.
Fast.
We have a shout out tier. It is our very top tier at patreon.com/EZALlies, and we deeply appreciate and love everybody that is on that tier, so much so that I wanted to go here to make sure I'm getting all of these names right. You recognize a lot of these. We got a new one in there, though. Ian, you're going first. I'm going after you. Blood, you're going after me. And Damiani, you are going last. Shout out to Caleb Togi Crawford, Greg the Dark Knight Kettering, El Fanis, Stephen Thomason, Edsgar Senpai Black Clover, and Nick.
Shout
out.
Shout out.
Shout out.
Daniel Bloodworth, you've completely won this podcast. And you get to do stuff. You get to promote any EZALlies video you'd like to promote. You get the final word on anything you disagreed with, want to reiterate, or just popped in your head. And you get to sign off with your trademark sign off.
I will promote a video that is not really even our video, but it's the new Hitman trailer. We get a little shout out for something that Brandon and Ian and Huber are working on, those contracts. They're gonna be they're going out quick. As soon as you get them done, they're gonna post them basically.
Yeah.
I'm kind of stressed about it.
Right.
Yeah. Playing some Hitman tonight.
But yeah, definitely thank you guys for working on that stuff. For final word, I'll just, Sony, I don't know what you're doing over there with that reorganization, Japan studio. Keep as many good people as you can, do as many crazy things as you can. Don't lose the innovation. And we will see you before the next blood moon rises. Alexa, tell Xbox to do this. I'm like, okay.
Oh, yeah.